My sticky shoes.
Hello. Oh, the stream is actually playing? Is it play? Oh, yes. Hello, it's playing. Damn it, I wanted to do like a fancy.
My sticky shoes. My sticky, sticky shoes. Why you stick?
Hi, everyone. Um, welcome. I have absolutely no plan for this evening, and that's kind of nice. After, by the way, YouTube is telling me that the stream is bad. Oh no, now it's okay. Okay, well, whatever. Restless was amazing. Thank you. Yeah, most definitely. Uh, this will be official. Should I get a tuxedo? How meta. Hello. Uh, After a long week of grinding and all of that, I thought it might be nice to just hang out and watch some of the videos from this season with you guys. What a weird 2 years. Let's look at this, right? And if you guys want to throw a comment my way or a question, just use the at, and I'll take a look. But we finished. The battle's done, and we kind of won. So was it, Boris? 22 episodes, or so 44 videos plus all. Oh, this needs to be hidden. Why is that? I'll do that later. Hello. Anyway, I thought I really enjoyed doing the anniversary stream where it was just me hanging out with you guys, answering questions, and watching videos. I thought it's been kind of a weird year. We could just watch some of the best videos from this past year, and I'll tell you about um, what's going what I'm going to do next. And I wanted to give you guys a poll about how to do what's next. Um, so there we are. But anyway, happy Saturday, everyone, or Sunday morning. Nathan, hi. Why? It's always nice when the Europes stay up and say hello. It's nice when everyone stays up and says hello. But I know I don't make these convenient for your time zone. Um, Last step was amazing. Thank you for Restless. Yeah, I appreciate it. It seems like it's going over. It's going over well with everyone, and that was one that I really wanted to land. Hi, Luis. Um, yeah, no problem. We ain't celebrating till season 7, season 5 are done. That's fair. There's nothing I like better than being held accountable by people on the internet. Um, so let's see. And this was the season that was interrupted by Fox, and then I switched over to movie reviews for a little while, and then what was it? I published Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie review, and they didn't flag it, and so I started appealing everything else, and then it popped, and I was like, I guess we're going again. That was a year ago. For serious, Restless rocked my socks. I'm glad. Uh, that was so. I can tell you a quick story. I mean, the income that I'm attempting to do this with is might require other kinds of jobs, and my car was broken, so I got a Lyft has a car rental service. So you can rent a car and then you drive for them. And at 80 rides, they reimburse you for half the car. And at 115 rides, they reimburse you for all of it or most of it. You still pay like 20 bucks or something like that. And so last weekend, I picked up the car and went driving. And I really like doing it. I drove for Lyft a few years ago and loved it. But I was doing this plus my full time job, and I was like, I think I have enough to do. But getting you get such a random cross section of humanity, and you meet so many different cool people. And there's always a question, like one measure of a good Lyft or Uber is when you get in the car, what music are they playing? I've gotten in Lyfts where they were playing conservative talk radio or liberal talk radio or whatever, or country or and all fine, of course. But the one that I came up with was blues. Nobody hates the blues. Nobody I know hates. Maybe the mayor hates the blues. And one night I was driving around and it started to rain a little bit, and I'm driving a Golf, and I pull up in front of this place, and this beautiful man in a tux and this beautiful woman in a dress come out, and they are clearly drunk and get in the back of my car, and I drive them back, and I look in the rearview mirror, and they're making out in the back of the car, and I'm like, okay, cool, and just flip it, give them their privacy, and I'm driving this beautiful woman in a night dress and a man in this night dress, I don't know, the gown, and we pull up in front of the house. It was like being in a film noir movie. It was late one night, and the beautiful couple came out, and I pull up in front of their place, and the guy gets out, and the woman reaches up and puts her hand on my shoulder and whispers in my ear, "I like your music," and then gets out of the car, and I got chills. It's one of those stories that really has no climax, but the texture of that experience, that was something I was trying to get at with Restless, was so crazy. But you get paid like $10 an hour. So your Restless review was friggin' awesome. Thank you. Serious Restless rock my socks. Are you a Whovian? I am not. I couldn't. I gave it a good try and couldn't really get into it. It didn't hook me. Thank you for the Restless review, Callie. You're welcome. It was amazing. A tour de force for your incredible work. The mayor would hate the blues. The mayor would definitely hate the blues. I've had the best conversations with my Lyft drivers. Yeah. Well, anyway, I this past weekend got a car and went driving for like 7-8 hours, and every hour felt like an hour not spent working on this, and it just proved to be unfeasible, and so I returned the car, and somehow it must have lit a fire under my ass because put in a lot of time this week. It felt great. Passion of the Nerd, we help the carless. Or a smut book. Where did you start Doctor Who? I started with I'll show you. We can do this now. I made sure to clear my browser history before firing up the stream this time. Nailed it. Doctor Who. See that this is nice. Oh, the streams, I really don't get to hang out with you guys in quite this way. It's kind of nice. Right at the beginning of the Capaldi seasons was where I stopped. I got 1 to whatever that was. In Restless, when Buffy puts the stuff on her face and she looks more like the first Slayer, I read that is when she needs to be the Slayer, she has to cover up her human self. That's an interesting interpretation. Someone else mentioned they always thought the weapons were in there, but they had melted and it was a surreal image. I do read all the comments. The thing I think makes the connection I brought up is the connection in season 7. And the way that review is written, that's why I wanted to establish in the introduction that I don't care whether this was intended or not. The foreshadowing or any of that. We're looking at this as a completed thing in this video. And so for me, what makes that primordial mud representing the raw Slayer power was the connection to Principal Wood in season 7 and the teleporter that takes her to the Shadow Men who want to make her more like the first Slayer. And she says in that scene when she's chained up and the demon power is flying around her that it will make her less human, implying that she'll be more like the first Slayer, unable to really speak for herself and just sort of animalistic. The other cool thing that someone brought up in chat was so Giles says you never had a watcher. The Shadowmen are not really watchers, and wouldn't connect them. I don't know the lore in the comic books, but I wouldn't connect them with the Watchers Council. But someone asked, how did the Slayers become a thing of the Watchers Council in Britain? And we all thought colonialism. And what an interesting bit of lore to unpack. It's just, if you were, someone should write that fanfic. Look at British history and the time when they were sort of pillaging Africa, or pillaging or exploring. I don't mean to be offensive, but we're all adults, right? No, I'm just kidding. And they stumble on the Shadowmen and the Slayer, and then sort of can take that power for themselves. I thought that would be really interesting. I stopped at Angels Take Manhattan. That's right. Do you like Black Mirror? I think it would be more accurate to say I want to like Black Mirror. It's wonderfully composed, wonderfully acted. I guess I have a weird allergy to technophobia, and much of the first two seasons are very technophobic, anti-social media, that's just not my thing. But I love anthology. I'm really happy that Twilight Zone is coming back. It's amazing how successful Get Out was. That he's now an icon of horror, and Twilight Zone isn't really horror, but to have is it Key or Peele in the commercial was really cool. Thoughts on Wood as a character? I liked him, but I always felt like he got the short end of the stick. He's really hot. He's like distractingly John, congratulations on the season. Congratulations to us all. We made it through. Cheers, brother. Peel, thank you. I never watched the show. That's always the first thing I got to get that detail out of the way. I'm just like, God, he is so pretty. But beyond that, I think he's one of the more interesting characters in season 7. Season 7 is very based around Buffy and Spike, and that's interesting. The potentials are not particularly interesting. Dawn is not particularly interesting. Xander doesn't have very much to do, but Robin has a very cool backstory that's integrated into the lore, and I like Principal Wood a lot. I wonder where it would have. I mean, they knew it was the last season, so the other thing it weirdly smacks of is, well, no, I just think he's great. That actor's wonderful, and he's very pretty. Well, let's watch a video. A lot of season 7 was untapped. Wait, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any reds. You're in triple-digit participants right now. Cool. Welcome, everyone. I started a little bit early, just to let you know. I have no plans for tonight. I'm just celebrating the end of the season. And cheers. And I thought we might talk about what's next. And I want to poll you guys for how you want me to do Firefly, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the more I think about it, the more I'm agree with Boris, who's been telling me for months now not to do it the way that I thought I was going to do it. But anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. Let's watch a video. When we started this season, I was very, very nervous about the Angel guides. Angel does not have the same wealth of academic writing out there about it. It definitely does not build. It has general sort of season themes and goals, but nowhere near in the sort of concrete fashion that Buffy does. But it's funny how halfway through or more towards the end, I really started to enjoy, like, once we got to Somnambulist and then The Prodigal and 5 by 5, those videos, I really started to find things that spoke to me. Excuse me. And I'm proud of how those videos turned out. Where Buffy is the opposite; it starts so strong and then sort of flounders in the home stretch there. And anyway, I did want to watch the City of video with you guys, and then we can kind of pick where to go from there. I'm just curious what videos from this season. It's funny that I'm calling 2 years a season. Yeah, we can watch Jack's edits. Um, Stuck with you guys, which ones are more memorable, so forth, and not just your favorite episodes because Faith is in them. I'm not saying that to anyone in particular. Jack's edits would be fun. Play the Prodigal. I think we'll definitely play the Prodigal. You have to sing the theme song before every Firefly review. Okay. um, The intros are incredible. This one was kind of crazy, mind blowing. These were done by a gentleman named Assad. He's incredibly talented. I think I have him linked in every one of the videos. Um, I don't know if most people remember. I think it was early season 3 or late season 2. My titles are terrible. One of the things I do very badly is text and design. I'm just not a designer. And so the first season of the guide was just on-screen text, and then I found an After Effects tutorial to create that lightning strike, super saturated blue one that was an intro for a couple of videos. And then Assad, who watches, sent me a message one day and said, "Hey, I redid your intro for you. Here, you can have it." And it was the Buffy intro with the gauze and the blood and it's so pretty. So I actually hired him to create this one. I wanted to hire him to do the Firefly intro, but he's too busy with career and being successful and talented. Must be rough. And the music was done by another fan. Uh, Will Hughes. He's linked in he did the Buffy music is stock, but Will did the music for Angel, and it's so epic. Angel is at an LA bar, drunkenly talking to a stranger about Buffy. His eye is on a table of people partying and playing pool, including Sawyer from Lost. Turns out the two men are vampires getting takeout, and Angel just instantly, I'm like, holy cow, this feels like 2 years ago. Takes them both in a pretty cool battle. As the victims approach to thank him, he tells them to get away, and we can see in his eyes a thirst. Remember, he recently took a deep drink from the goblet of Buffy, and it's already been shown that Slayer blood has a profound effect on vampires.
Oh, God. The power.
Clearly, he is suffering from some withdrawal. He has left Sunnydale, found a new ride, and is holed up in the basement of an old office space. And when he comes home, we meet for the first time.
Well, I like the place. Not much with the view, but it's got a nice back cave sort of an air to it.
Doyle. Doyle is half demon, receives visions from the powers that be regarding bad stuff about to happen, and was sent to provide Angel fuel for his redemption. He passes the first one on right off the bat. Tina, who is obviously suffering from some distress over someone named Russell. Angel earns a modicum of trust and asks her if he can escort her for an evening. They end up at an LA entertainment soiree, and this is where we run into
Cordelia?
Oh my God, Angel?
The other thing, too, is my brain is in restless mode, and I'm like, this is really slow. The other ones that were, Restless was so darn dense. I love the Angel review intro you did for She. Yeah, that one was fun. I also enjoy the Copacabana. If you recite the song as a poem. Oh, I like that. Favorite edit you've done is for the mayor's speech as Faith falls out the window, hit home. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We can't watch that whole video, of course, but we could like do like little highlights and stuff. I was told this would be a Minecraft stream that's coming up later. A YouTuber I watched does weekly streams. I knew he'd like your stuff, so I kept asking if he saw you every week till he did. Nice. Jan, you're still awake? Go to sleep, buddy. I would love to see in Firefly parallels with Civil War and how they mix sci-fi Western genre themes. Yeah, so I try and shout out Mark Field anytime that I can, and I mentioned this on the editing live stream. Mark is he's not gotten into Firefly. He wrote Myth, Metaphor, and Morality and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he told me his objections. So my video, Why You Should Watch Firefly, is going to directly speak to his objections, including. But what you asked actually relates to that, Jan. Jan, I think I've asked you that before. He said that he really liked your analysis and thanked me for nagging him into it. By the way, props to you if you can name who I'm talking about. I don't know. Your graphic artist is amazing. I love both the Buffy and Angel ones. So pretty. Well, that's Assad's work. That's not mine. Oh, the Wesley intro. Well, that was in season 3. Hi, Maggie. Welcome, everyone, filing in. I also don't like Firefly very much. Hopefully I can change your mind, Jordan. I will not. Seriously, I work mostly at night, so it's not that hard to be awake. All right. Hi, Jack. I miss you and I love you. Cordy hasn't changed a bit. Says she's now living on a beach in Malibu and then acting is just clicking for her. Then she needs to get back to mingling.
Well, I better get mingly. I really should be talking to people that are somebody.
Tact is just not saying true stuff.
Tina gets grabbed and Angel saves her in the parking lot. At
Flash
his place,
frame.
Tina describes Russell in no uncertain terms as a bad guy.
He likes pain. I mean, he really does.
Angel does some research at the LA library and discovers Russell's pattern. Tina sees Angel's note from Doyle and runs out in a fit of distrust. Later that night, Angel finds her body. And at Russell's mansion, he is being given the lowdown from a lawyer named Lindsay McDonald as to how her death is being hidden.
Wolferman Hart is a full-service law firm, Mr. Winters.
And on the video of the party, Russell spies Cordy. As Cordy is being driven to Russell's mansion, Angel drags a spineless Doyle along with him.
I'm just a messenger. And I'm the message.
At the mansion, we gain some insight into Cordy's struggle, and then in what is my favorite bit in the episode...
Hey, you're a vampire.
No, I'm not.
She may not be a big city girl, but she is most certainly a Sunnydale alum. Angel breaks into the mansion and saves Cordy, letting Russell go. He then breaks into Wolferman Hart and pushes Russell out a window, which leads to a pretty spectacular death. I think this is actually one of the best stunts in the series. Both the stuntman and the camera were attached to a decelerating cable falling at the same speed. Back at the office... and Cordy has appointed herself as manager of Angel's new mission. All things considered, it's a pretty good pilot. My favorite sequence is the opening, which sets up one of our central metaphors, strong. A lot of people pointed out the flags, that maybe it's the gay flag in the background. Maybe, as a series of pennants, it would be interesting if that was just there or what the thinking was. Yeah, but that was a detail that I didn't happen to mention that people brought up pretty regularly. Strongly lays out the early season motifs, as well as instantly departs from Buffy. Though in the DVD commentary for the pilot, Whedon said he immediately felt a sense of betrayal over how he began Buffy versus how he began Angel. The last time he had a girl threatened in an alley, she turned out to be this. It's funny, I just realized that shot, you've got the Buffy icon shot, and now began Buffy versus how he began. That's probably the Angel icon shot that I'll be using over and over and over again as things go on. Angel. The last time he had a girl threatened in an alley, she turned out to be the Slayer, but here the women needed a big, strong hero to save them. But it's Angel's complexity, right now reflected more in his backstory than the evidence of his time on Buffy, that drew Whedon to the show. And part of that complexity is established in the opening visual metaphor of the episode. Angel is at a bar drinking, which visually establishes the metaphor of him being a recovering alcoholic. One I believe is constant throughout the rest of the show, and dovetails well with the ideas about redemption and sacrifice. sacrifice. Whedon and Greenwald designed Angel the series as a noir, a term that I think most people feel like they understand but probably can't define, myself included. And there's a reason for that. What specifically defines noir is actually a continuing debate, other than the general consensus as to some common visual and character tropes. The genesis of noir as a category is due to a fairly complex set of circumstances relating to the studio system in the 30s and 40s. For instance, the visual language of noir was originally driven by the necessity of minimalism in 30s black and white B movies, as in what is the minimum visual information necessary to provide the story. Consequently, there's a lot of strong single-source lighting, dark shadows, low angles, and maximum contrast. American cinematographer Ellen Davio said in noir what's important are the lights you don't turn on. And that stark visual language filtered into the common story and character tropes as well. Noir sprung out of a sense of nihilism leading up to and just after World War II. Consequently, the common narrative tropes were ones that both lent themselves well to that simple visual language and reflected the current feelings in the cultural zeitgeist. The hard-boiled detective, the damsel in distress.
I came here to be a famous movie star.
Music borrowed from the video game L.A. Noire, but I love this hit right here.
But they weren't hiring.
Crime stories, cynicism, moral ambiguity.
You can't cut yourself off, Doyle. I don't want to share my feelings. I don't want to open up. I want to find the guy that killed Tina, and I want to look him in the eye.
Still, David Greenwald lists the scene where Angel jumps in the wrong car in the parking lot as one of the most important bits in the pilot. It's a mission statement moment shouting that Angel the series is going to attempt to subvert the classic noir, not retread it. But ignoring all that, the whole opening scene just kicks ass. You've got a great little fight sequence, climaxing in what ends up being one of the visual icons from the series, the double stake. You've got some heavily John Woo-influenced low-angle bits of Angel walking towards the camera with his cape-like trench flapping behind him. You have his Batman-like gadgets, and then his inner struggle to never drink again. It's one part noir detective, one part supernatural thriller, and one part comic book superhero. The cast feels a little sparse at the moment, but promising. The one I found most charismatic and interesting from the start was Doyle, played by Becky's former boyfriend, Glenn Quinn, and was quite excited to see where they might go with his character over the course of the series. I love how... I do that a lot, which is just sort of assume references, but boy, is that not great writing. But I mean, it's some people have mentioned taking the scripts and turning them into a book. There's no way that this would fly in written form, but promising. The one I found most charismatic and interesting from the start was Doyle, played by Becky's former boyfriend, Glenn Quinn. And I didn't mention who Becky was, what show it was. Was quite excited to see where they might go with his character over the course of the series. I love how his half-human demon dichotomy reflects in his dialogue and behavior.
It's about reaching out to people, showing them that there's love and hope still left in this world.
Hey, spare change?
Get a job, you lazy sow.
And of course, that dichotomy Get a reflects job, the you show's lazy subversive sow. Elements. And Cordy instantly feels like a better fit here than she did on Buffy. There were more than a few episodes of Buffy where it seemed like the writers didn't know exactly how to include Cordy, especially after the Xander breakup. Already, Cordelia... Exactly, who's Becky? So Becky is Roseanne's daughter on the Roseanne show. Roseanne and Dan Aykroyd. John Goodman. Jeez, come on, brain. Not awesome on the recall. I think if you're an American, it comes very easily, but I have no idea how popular that show was in other regions. Your speech about emotional DNA at the end of Something Blue review. I always forget that I made that a sad review. One of the funniest episodes in the series. Just a note, today is Zoe Washburn's birthday. Also so glad that people still love these shows and that there are people who understand my obsessions. Agreed, Megan. And happy birthday, Zoe. There's a way to read Angel versus Russell as a Vampire King turf war. Angel rolls into town and takes over L.A. from Russell, but the show doesn't do much with that till Warzone. That's interesting. And then they sort of redirect it to Wolfram and Hart. Have you thought about doing, Ruben, have you thought about doing classic movie reviews? The montage brought it to my mind. Sunset Boulevard would make for a great video. I have. There's been a project that I've had in my head for years now called Ian's List of Shame, where I sort of go and watch it's my opportunity to broaden my palette and watch a lot of the important content that I've never watched before. I've never watched Citizen Kane. I've never seen Seven Samurai. I've never seen, until last year, I had never seen Jaws. And then to do them as a review. But from the perspective of someone who has never seen them before, and how do they hold up today, and why were they relevant at the time, and should you go watch them if you're not a film nut. Hopefully we get to do some of that this year. Oh, sorry. Tiffany, I've tried to watch Firefly, but I think it's similar to how the first season of Buffy turns people off. I couldn't get into it. There's a hump. I had a similar problem with Firefly as I did kind of with Angel and with Dollhouse, which is I had just watched Buffy, and the show obviously changed my life, and so I was looking for that same magic, that same kind of experience, and that overshadowed Firefly, which you can't get from 14 episodes, and to some degree Angel, because it was very different by intent, and definitely Dollhouse. But I've since gone back. Every time I rewatch Firefly, that show grows on me. But the hump for me the first time through, before I just kind of realized, oh my God, I'm in love with these characters, was about half of the first season. 5 or 6 episodes in, suddenly I was hooked. But it was a bit slow until then. You should watch Council of Geeks Buffyverse vids. He does do deep analysis. He doesn't do deep analysis, but he does unscripted and is good at it, so there's no long pauses, and he speaks with a lot of passion. I'll take a look. I love your references in your video and your film history that you sprinkle in. Thank you. I hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I apologize. Yeah, I didn't see Jaws until last year. I didn't need your sub anyway. No, I'm kidding. Let's never fight again. If you need a good template for classic movies to watch, you should use the Sight and Sound magazine poll. I will take a look. Czech Republic, when Roseanne was shown in mid-90s because of the end of communism. It was a funny time because everything was 10 years late and we found out that world outside exists. Nice. It's okay, and I only recently watched all of Dollhouse. Interesting show, and I need to watch it again. I've only seen it once. Let's give it a go.
Celia feels more at home to me with Angel in L.A. than she did within the confines of Sunnydale. At most, Sunnydale would have a baroness. L.A. is a city for a queen, and she is, even here, a perfect foil for Angel's broody loner Batman routine. I also loved how she preemptively figures out Russell is a vampire. Cordy is not dumb. While it's a topic I avoided in why you should watch Angel, I think in setting the table for this season of the Angel Guide, it's important to talk briefly about the core distinctions between Buffy and Angel. I'm going to speak overall about both shows without getting into any specific spoilery detail.
Brandon, thank you, Ian, for everything. Thank you. Cheers. Harlequin. Throwing out a recommendation for Black Sails. For me, it's up there with Buffy Angel as meaningful television. We'll add it to the list. I think actually it might already be on the list. The list is enormous at this point, but I'll take a look. Am I a true Whedon fan if I've never seen Firefly? Of course, but you should see Firefly. There may be a video up soon called Why You Should Watch Firefly that you might want to check out.
I hope. Where Buffy has a pretty defined, you might be tempted to use the word rigid symbolic structure, Angel does not. On Buffy, you had the big bad, who was usually in some way after Buffy. That big bad stood for some sort of impediment to growing up, and that impediment tended to structure the manner in which the season arc unfolded. Early on, even the episodes that were seemingly about...
I do have a P.O. box, and I meant to go to it today. Sarah, I don't know if you're here. I apologize if that I missed it. Oh, no, I'm going tomorrow. I'm helping Jess move tomorrow. The P.O. box is in the description of every video.
Scoobies and not Buffy were always nearly in some way thematically related to her and her season arc, and each season represented a concise step on that path to adulthood, which constructed Buffy's life. In an interview, Whedon stated that there were two things he tends to write about: the journey to power and the idea of the burden of power. Buffy is the first, Angel is the second, which is one thing that accounts for their drastic differences in style. Whedon has admitted that early on he didn't know how to write Angel the series, this big, handsome, sexy pile of man meat with superpowers and a cape. He couldn't relate to the character the way he could to Buffy. And the supporting cast on Angel, which each have a function to enhance the show, are actually not related to him symbolically. And that lack of metaphor tether gives them much more interesting potential stories than what some of the Scoobies got in Buffy's first 3 seasons. But because Whedon felt like he didn't know how to write Angel, what he'd end up doing as a matter of process was to tear him down each season to try and figure him out, leading to he and David Greenwalt reinventing the show each season as they found a better grasp of who Angel was. Angel's seasons are actually deconstructions of his character, the inverse of Buffy's seasons. It's partially why the seasons don't always have a specific single character big bad. The show just didn't need one, as Angel is often his own adversary, but we'll get into that further as we go on. Lastly, I want to have a quick chat with those of you new to Angel about patience and how to watch the show. I say all this assuming you came here from Buffy, but if you didn't, this still applies. Given Whedon's admitted struggles with the character, it goes without saying that there are some hurdles to get through. It's a question I get a lot. Should you watch Angel's episodes as they aired, as in Buffy Season 4 Episode 1, Angel Season 1 Episode 1, Buffy Season 4 Episode 2, Angel Season 1 Episode 2?
We get it,
or should
Ian.
you watch one
Good
complete
God.
show and then the other complete show? When Angel started, Buffy had been on the air for 3 years already. By Season 4, the cast and crew had found their strides, and the show has a light and easy chemistry to it that is liquid joy to drink in. I found switching between them sometimes sapped my experience of Angel's first season. And despite there being a small handful of crossover episodes between the two shows, I actually enjoyed Angel much more when I watched it sequentially and didn't swap in Buffy. But I'm sure there will be a hot debate over this in the comments, and in fairness, the very first time I watched Angel, I did swap. But the thing I most wanted to emphasize is, however you choose to watch Angel, be patient with it. The first season has some growing pains. It can be dry and a little cheesy at times. I'm certainly not going to hold back on those problems here in the guide, but never forget.
I don't know what I was thinking showing I Will Remember You when talking about dry. Yeah, that scene's amazing. I was just stupid at it.
In the guide, but never forget Buffy's first season. What I can say for most of you is that if you give it some space and time to discover itself, it will find a place in your heart. It certainly did for me.
I'm here, well, else would be no rush. If the alcoholic metaphor is constant, does the series follow the structure of the 12 steps? You mentioned believing in a higher power in Somnambulist. I don't think it's constant. I think it's loose. I mean, it is present throughout, but you know, it kind of waxes and wanes from time to time. So, and the more I watch it, the more I'm not. They kind of switch around a little bit. It's like I said, it's just less constant than Buffy. Where should we go from here? So where are we? Lonely Hearts, Living Conditions was fun. I mean, but that just.
I think it's going to be forcing them to abandon their privacy. Caught his leg and threw him into his own closet. Accidentally. For some reason, the rest of the semester, we never spoke again.
It's share time now.
Share time now.
I really don't think you're strong enough now.
I don't know. I don't know. When you watch your old videos, do you feel you changed your mind on some things you said? Oh yeah, definitely. The most obvious example is Surprise and Innocence, the theory that I came up with for trying to explain why Sold Spike and normal Spike are very similar, but Angel and Angelus are incredibly different, was the soul residue idea, and that was dumb. Once I kind of thought about it more and came up with the template model that has stuck in my head as like, yeah, that's it. Someone asked if I get excuse me, someone asked if I get tired of hearing my own voice, and oh god, yeah, especially this week. That was a 37-minute video. Yeah, and hearing my vocal flubs or poor pronunciation at times or whatever gets frustrating. But you know, it is what it is. Yeah, that's making stuff when you're a part of the thing you're making. I realize some people probably got turned off from Firefly because it is so hyped, and it ends up not living up to the hype for them. Firefly is one of the most hyped shows ever. Yeah, well, that's going to be in the video. There was a period where, you know, other shows were talking about getting Firefly back on the air. Community, there was a joke, we're going to get that show back on the air. It was a huge... I mean, it became almost more of an in thing or a joke. So I get that. But that is past now, so there's no excuse not to watch Firefly. Evelyn, love the momentum on this channel right now. You brought me to Buffy. Keep it up. Cheers, and thank you. Just making sure I didn't miss anyone. Hi, Jessica. Hello. I realize... Since this was the season that gave us the big Fox freeze, is there an update on that? Are they still constantly claiming you, or have they gone down a tad? Now, the only reason I'm able to keep doing this is because they stopped. So I believe I will remember you as the last one before I was like, look, I just can't do that. And there was a video here that explained what Fox was doing to me. They were kiting my reviews. And making the appeals process last as long as possible. So they weren't suing me, but they were dragging out the appeals process, so the video stayed frozen. And you can only appeal 2. You can appeal 3 at once, but you don't. You appeal 2 at once. And there were 11 videos that were also copyright flagged. So 60 days, 60 days. So I put up a new video, and it would be out for 3 or 4 months because of their flagging. And then once we made... the movie review, they flagged it and it went away in a day. And so I started sending in all the other appeals for the other one, and they all cleared up for the 11. Turns out Disney was in negotiations to buy all of Fox's properties, and no doubt they cut their room full of cubicles with people in there sitting there searching all of their properties and flagging everything because it was a waste of money if they're just going to sell it. So that it ended up being what happened. Where should we go from here? I've started doing Buffy reviews. Any tips? No. Watch just have a very critical eye for the things that you enjoy. Look at what they do well. And then, try and replicate while you find your own voice. My series, my channel was based on sort of stylistically, I was doing a bit of a Yahtzee impression when I first started, because I enjoyed his style. I thought he condensed a lot of information into a short amount of time. It's very joke heavy. So I was doing that, and then sort of a combination of a couple of other channels I did. But you start listening to, well, how are they written? What do you enjoy about what they do? What kind of why do the jokes work? Thinking about timing, how quickly an edit should be done. People who want to do something should be a really good student of the thing that they want to do. So, and I spent a lot of time searching around. Oh, Red Letter Media was another huge influence on my stuff. They're a huge influence on anyone who does this. And then kind of go from there. The other thing, too, is have a very critical eye about your own stuff, but not to the point where it paralyzes you. So, watching your own things. What did I do that was good that I should be doing again, and what can I do better? And don't pixel push. The Restless review has many errors in it, and it bugs me mightily. But you know, I'd worked on it for 3 weeks. At some point, it's time to do the next piece. So I published the video, pushed it out, watched it a couple of times to see, oh, I missed this, or I could have done this better, or the writing could have been better. There are bits of the essay that bug the hell out of me. So hopefully I can carry that into the next one. Jess is here to make sure I go to bed on time. Prodigal, please. Okay, we'll do the Prodigal. We don't have to do these in any particular order. What Wild at Heart means to me is still one of my personal favorite videos. Whoa. I missed a lot of questions. I'm sorry. Hi, guys. I'm in rehab now, but I managed to get YouTube. I miss you all. Hello, Pendian. What's one thing you would change on Buffy casting, storyline, etc.? I won't ask Angel because we all know the answer would be Cordy or Connor. I would never change. Oh, Cordy, yeah, you're talking about season 4. There are a few characters that kind of came and went rather quickly that I wished hadn't. Her therapist in season 3. I wish Snyder hadn't died. But I mean, how is he going to be involved in the show as a high school principal? But he's so good. Other than that, there's not really a lot. Harsh Light of Day. Do we want to watch it? Oh yeah. Well, we can watch the outro to that one if you like. 6 seasons in a movie. Smart idea, including overhype as a factor. Why don't you appeal 3 at once? So YouTube only allows you to appeal 3 copyright strikes at the same time. And the thing is, the companies that you're appealing to have the ability to turn all of those into strikes. So a flag is just this video is down. It's been marked as someone else's material. But a strike, you get 3 of. And so because all of my flags were foxes, if I appealed 3 at the same time, they could turn all of them into strikes, which takes down the channel until those strikes clear. No one can watch any videos, so on and so forth. I wasn't feeling Firefly during the first aired episode until Mal kicked the villain in the ship's engine. The first aired episode. The train job. We'll talk about that. Can we read the comments of the videos you watch? Oh, sure. Oh, Wild at Heart. Beer bad. Anything with faith. TV is a good thing. Something blue. Can't wait for the Baywatch guide. Oh, yeah. Fear Itself is a good one. Ah, yeah. Fear Itself is... pixel pushing is being too perfect. You know, your pixel pushing is you're adjusting something so finely that the only person who would notice the difference is you. Fear Itself was kind of an important... turned out to be more of an important episode and guide this season than I had thought it was going to. And obviously with the way the Restless guide went, you can see. So, yeah, let's watch it. Fear Itself is the second Halloween episode of Buffy, written by fan favorite David Fury. Like Ethan's episode, it relates in some way to chaos. Hear how fears run amok, creating disorder. And like Ethan's episode, Fear Itself is just flat out excellent. Excellent. It's pumpkin carving season, and the gang is all together for a night of frivolity that Buffy isn't feeling. Xander got the wrong scary movie from the video store, and Willow and Oz recommend a frat house party that they forgot to invite him to. Buffy excuses herself and wanders home alone across an empty Sunnydale, and a demon jumps out to scare her.
Jeez, that hurt. What the hell's wrong with you, lady?
You know what? Demon or not, that kid deserved to be punched in the face. Startling isn't funny. The next day, Willow is telling Buffy about all those things she can do magically now, but that she also feels plateaued, and Oz says he hopes Buffy doesn't encourage her.
Okay, Brutus.
Little odd that Willow calls Oz Brutus for just not wanting her to hurt herself. That was a serious reference. To oversimplify, Brutus killed Caesar for fear that Caesar was accumulating too much power. Buffy spots Parker and decides she's not hungry, heading out. She also tries to dodge out of the party, saying she has to patrol on Halloween. Giles, now with copious amounts of time, has decided to pursue American traditions his watcher duties never gave him time for.
It's alive!
At the upcoming frat house party, the brothers are setting up, and one of them has found a special book with a creepy symbol in it he thinks will spice things up. Anya shows up to try and figure out why Xander hasn't called her after
I love that shirt.
she told him she was over him.
Well, that's the funny thing about me. I tend to hear the actual words people
We'll do the Prodigal Quinn. It's just later on down the line.
say and accept them at face value.
That's stupid.
I accept that.
Xander invites Anya to the party, and she inadvertently plays on his current insecurities by being brutally honest. Not out of any attempt to harm, of course. Anya just doesn't have another speed. Buffy attempts to speak to Miss Walsh about why she's missing class, a bit of the Parker Blues, and Walsh bypasses her completely, saying class is her responsibility and she needs to solve problems on her own time. At the frat, the spooky symbol is now on the floor, and Oz, a supernatural creature of the night, cuts himself and accidentally adds the missing ingredient. That night, Buffy goes as Little Red Riding Hood, Xander as James Bond, and Willow as Joan of Arc. At the frat house, things have turned into total chaos, as individual terrifying fears have begun manifesting themselves. Inside, Willow runs into a fake web, and a moment later sees an actual tarantula on her shoulder. A moment later, they are attacked by bats, which then turn to rubber. The gang gets split up by the horrors, and each of them are forced to experience their own worst personal...
The gang gets split up by the horrors. Probably want to hit that middle R's a little bit harder.
Fears. Anya, dressed in full-on furry bunny outfit, witnesses the frat house lock people in and goes to seek Giles' help. Giles finds a way into the frat.
Well?
We're gonna have to create a door.
Giles finds the group and figures out that what's going on is the monster Gaknar is consuming enough fear to summon himself into the mortal realm. Buffy inadvertently hastens Gaknar's summon into our realm.
I am the Dark Lord of Nightmares, the bringer of terror.
Turns out they had nothing
so
to fear
cute.
but fear itself. It's a brilliant little episode that is both self-contained and deeply informing about the characters. I love that the whole idea of the episode is kind of a riff on the end of Ghostbusters. Gozer the Gozerian has brought the Traveler to destroy the Earth, which will take the form of whatever they imagine. Everyone empties their heads but Ray, who can't help think of...
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
So the things that the characters are most afraid of are manifested in the real world. Xander is afraid his lack of both direction and superpowers makes him invisible and irrelevant to the group. He picks James Bond for his costume, as superhuman a character as you can get without actually having superpowers. Oz is afraid he won't be able to control his inner wolf, and because of that he might actually harm Willow. And Willow is afraid she might not be able to control her magic, which has become a defining part of her identity. The bit she believes shows everyone she is remarkable, and not just Buffy's sidekick in geeky clothes. And she is also very afraid that Oz will leave her.
You don't have to prove anything to me.
Oz! Oz, don't leave me! Don't leave me! Don't leave me!
I love everyone's costumes as well. Willow going as Joan of Arc, who was burned at the stake, is perfect. Buffy dressed as Little Red Riding Hood is a nice callback to Helpless. Of course, the highlight of them all is Anya's turn as a bunny.
That's your scary costume.
I love his delivery on that.
I've heard
Bunny's
Anya accused a
frightened me.
few times of being the comic relief, brutally honest character that took the departed for L.A. Cordelia's place. And while there is some of that here, I believe there is something fundamentally different about their two characters. The intent of their brutal honesty. Cordy is wicked smart, incisive. She doesn't beat around the bush because she just doesn't have time for that. Love her or get the hell out of her way. Anya just doesn't have another speed.
Men are evil. Will you go with me?
Anya was made a demon, not taken over by one. Her transformation to human again is completely starting her from scratch. It's been so long since she's been human that simple concepts are going to need to be relearned. In a lot of ways, she is a child trapped in an adult body.
They all ran away from you.
They always will.
They always will.
Open your heart
Open your heart to someone and...
Which brings us to Buffy's fear, abandonment. Buffy's moping about Parker is a little frustrating until you take into account that this is not actually just about Parker. Notice the word all here. She's unpacking baggage that she's been carrying for a long time. I highlighted the ways in which Angel related to this in the previous video, but here we see her neuroses around love and men go all the way back to her father.
Your father loved spending time with you. not enough, I guess.
When she is unable to sort out the details of her private life, Buffy often hides behind the Slayer mantle, as she does in trying to avoid the party. And her fear of that maybe being all there is for her manifests in the basement of the frat house.
No matter how hard you fight, you just end up in the same place.
Maybe there is nothing for her in life but monsters and the dead. Perhaps to be the Slayer is to be nothing but a killer. If you're reading ahead, then you might wonder if some of the coming events in the series undercut a bit of the philosophy here. I don't think so. Perhaps some of our fears are valid, justified, warranted, even precognitive. But there is something to keep in mind. In the intervening time since I wrote the first draft of this video, I stumbled on a fascinating video on the New York Times, which I have linked to in the description. 2 Swedish documentary filmmakers wanted to make a film about people facing a difficult situation. They found 67 participants who had never been on a high dive before and paid them all to climb a 30-foot diving tower, look over the edge, and then to jump or to not. The filmmakers then turned on the cameras and watched. I was so struck by what a simple analog this was to so many choices in life. To ask out a crush.
I love her. Just jump.
Or to not. To go to an interview. To step on stage. To take responsibility. Whether you take the plunge or turn around to go back and make a different decision, in every case, it is the space between those 2 choices that is the worst of it. The fear is the worst of it. There is no torture like the precipice, no anxiety like the icy grip of the unknown, and some spend their whole lives here, paralyzed to inaction by the fear. Confinement in that space between has accounted for so much of the anxiety I have suffered in my own life. And for some reason, it took the longest time to come to grips with the fact that anxiety has only one antidote. Action.
Aw, it's recommending the no spoilers version. So, scrolling back a little bit there. What's your favorite non-Whedon TV show? Star Trek The Next Generation or Avatar The Last Airbender? X-Files a distant third, I think. Do you think Dawn's fundamentally changed Hank Summers' personality? That's why he was so distant after. That's interesting. Yeah, he's supposedly off. Buffy says after the body that he's... Or no, during the body that he's off someplace with his secretary. Again, another cool exploration might be the first 3 or 4 seasons with Dawn and how she altered the events. Even though they're just the memories of it, it would be kind of cool to see. But no, he was not cool even before that. No torture like the precipice. Video is so good. Thank you. Really great analysis right in the feels. Those are the fun ones. Although I do love me an arrow on someone's chest. Why does Xander never get any better at fighting? Like, I get it's part of his arc, but every character on both shows ends up more competent than him, even the other non-powereds. Well, Xander doesn't apply himself particularly well. Willow gets magically better. I'm not sure she's super better at fighting, is she? Giles has his Ripper days, you know. I think the other characters have an excuse to be better, and Xander just doesn't. But he also doesn't apply himself. As long as you don't play the edit on Grief from Your Top 10 video, we won't cry. Oh, yeah, the mommy. God, that actually felt terrible to put in. Yeah, we can do the Prodigal. There are some comics that are pre-Sunnydale Life with Dawn. That's awesome. I actually kind of want to read some of them. What is the hardest on-screen character death to watch between Buffy and Fred? By the way, obviously spoilers. If you're here, we're spoiling everything. This is a open conversation. Yeah. Oh, and someone asked if I was going to review the video games. Yes, I have both of the Buffy video games. I may just play them on the other YouTube channel, the video game YouTube channel. I don't know. And I'm not giving out that link because I'm going to completely redo the video game YouTube channel. So, yeah. What YouTubers do you like that do Buffy-related content? None right now. I follow Shan. She does After Show Reacts, and I watch the major episodes. I mean, in doing what I'm doing, I'm so saturated by Buffy content anyway that when I'm in my free time, I want to watch other stuff. Broader palette, widen my tastes. But Shan's a friend, and I hope we get to do more collaborations like we did on her channel. I know the point was that it was non-magical, but do you think Joyce's tumor has anything to do with the sheer mass of memories that got rewritten to include Dawn? That's an interesting headcanon, pun not intended, except I did this, which suggests that it's intended. I'm not sure. Huh. Well, the other thing too is a lot of people read her in the walls saying she wants to come out as Buffy's walking away as foreshadowing her death, which is why I included the mommy bit in there. Oh, and she talks about a mouse ran past her knees and she's learning to play mahjong, and that's sort of that was something I left out. That's a hint at the tumor and the ensuing mental illness in season 5. But the memories weren't there yet. But Buffy has, preternatural dream. I don't know. Let's watch another video. Something Blue. Oh, we'll do something. We can watch Something Blue. Well, someone's been asking for The Prodigal repeatedly, so let's watch that, and then we'll watch Something Blue. I can't find my own videos. Yeah, so we'll go back to Something Blue.
At the risk of irritating quite a number of people, The Prodigal is the first episode in Angel the series that might break into my top 20. Yes, I know. I Will Remember You and Hero are in Season 1, and while I think both of those episodes have wonderful emotional scenes that might be some of the most memorable in the series, there are aspects to both, especially in regards to plot, that I find troublesome and difficult to ignore. But The Prodigal is intricate, musical, emotional, and feels like a complete thought from beginning to end.
Kind of an awkward intro.
We do things a certain way.
It's 200 years ago, and Angelus is standing in a doorway attempting to lure a fair maiden into the shadows and pounce on her. Turns out it was just Liam with a blinding hangover. This actually got me. The reference to his future vampire self made through the medium of a hangover was such clever storytelling and made me wonder if I'm a future vampire. Liam's father...
Why do I do that to you guys? That was just awful. I also missed an opportunity there to mention the alcoholic metaphor.
Kicks him into the sunlight and curses him for his layabout ways, and we cut immediately to Angel in a subway doing battle. Kate is now aware of Angel's world, but attempting mightily to compartmentalize and insulate herself from it.
It's about that demon from this one.
Could you please not say that word? It makes me, I don't know, just uncomfortable.
Still, Kate is the fish out of water through which some nice lore building is done on the show. As she learns, so do we, and her ignorance justifies occasional bouts of exposition from other characters. There's a great little exchange between Angel and Kate as she momentarily lets her guard down and then verbally shoves him away. Darla and Saffron are taking in...
What was that costume from? Jessica and I, on occasion, do a live stream. And the Bad Decisions lives, or no, we do a Halloween live stream, and that was from the Halloween live stream. I waited until the day of to buy the outfit, and all they had was a medium dress, and I am not a medium.
Liam for the first time and are obviously impressed. Wesley's research reveals that the demon Angel found is actually peaceful. Something must be up. Angel tails a witness played by Danny McBride's younger cousin Randy McBride, #HornyMcBride, to the apartment of Kate's dad where he drops off a strange package. Angel confronts him and has the door slammed in his face. In flashback, we see Liam leaving home to get out from under his father's thumb. Liam says goodbye to his younger sister, and he and his father square...
Yeah, that is her, and I did say.
...lies and insulate herself from it.
It's about that demon from this one.
Some nice lore building is positioned from other characters. Are down and then verbal. Wesley's research are taking in... There's a great little exchange between...
Listen carefully.
Angel and Kate as she momentarily lets her guard down and then verbally shoves him away. Darla and Saffron are taking in Liam for the first time and are obviously impressed. Wesley's research reveals that the demon Angel found is actually peaceful. Something must be up. Angel tails a witness played by Danny McBride's younger cousin Randy McBride, #HornyMcBride, to the apartment of Kate's dad where he drops off a strange package. Angel confronts him and has the door slammed in his face. In flashback, we see Liam leaving home to get out from under his father's thumb. Liam says goodbye to his younger sister, and he and his father square off one last time. And just when you think his father was at risk of becoming a little one-dimensional, he grabs Liam by the arm. His anger gives way to a look of fear and desperation at the thought of Liam leaving home, a look that actually shook me. Liam is turned by Darla in scenes we once saw in Becoming Part 1, and after the episode bothers to make Liam's father a more interesting character, Kate buys hers a beer, and he seems to offer some genuine admiration for Angel and his abilities.
It's not good to be alone, Katie.
This can only go well for these two. Wesley discovers the peaceful demon was on drugs. Turns out Kate's dad is unwittingly helping a demon crime lord move them. The demon orders Angel's death. Angelus awakens after Liam's funeral. Darla is waiting for him, and Angelus experiences his first kill. There is a notable moment where Angelus turns to Darla looking for approval, and then finishes the murder. His father is boarding up the windows, and Angelus surprises him. Their exchange is some gripping tragedy, and I can never help but picture his father's last desperate glance as Liam walked out the door.
I was never in your way, boy.
It reminded me a bit of...
Maybe we shouldn't.
Angelus believes this to be his shining moment of victory. But in the following scene back in the present, Liam's choice to become a vampire with Darla means that Angel is unable to enter the apartment to save Kate's father, and he can only watch until his soul leaves his body. And then Kate discovers the scene.
She does such a good job with that. It gets me every time.
This is Angel paying for Liam's choice in the loss of Kate's father. Kate finds the address of the Mafia demons, and Angel helps her annihilate them, but the rift between Angel and Kate is now permanent. This is a complicated episode, and there exists plenty of opportunities for nitpicks, but I think on closer examination there are some wonderful things going on. The Prodigal is an engrossing tragedy, and tragedy is cyclical. One bad action leads to another, and then another. Liam left home and asked Darla to show him her world. The punishment for that action was the death of his entire family, and many years later having to watch Kate's father murdered in front of him while not being able to do anything about it. The cycle of tragedy doesn't care about the size of the action that created it. Or, as Angel puts it,
it's his choice. Yeah, I know all about it, Wesley, believe me, but sometimes the price we end up paying for one bad choice isn't commensurate with the offense.
The Buffyverse doesn't often distill the horror and sadness of the vampire cycle so dramatically, and display it for us so unflinchingly. I was most reminded of the haunting gaze Drusilla and Spike gave Ford in Lie to Me, and Buffy grappling with the complexity of her new life as she waited for Ford to rise. After two duds and a meh, it's alright, The Prodigal feels so confidently well put together. I love the parallel structure of the story, mirroring Kate and Angel's relationships with their fathers. As we've said before, for some reason Angel flashback episodes just tend to be really great. But even beyond the story, the episode feels technically well executed. The music by Robert Krall and Christoph Beck is actually distinct between the two time periods. The themes for Liam's fall and the rise of Angelus are gothic, restrained, and horrifying, tragically inevitable. Where the notes for the modern-day sequences sound out the more conventional heroic motifs. Ignoring the tumultuous aspects of the season, there has been some internal dissonance to Angel's structure. The early parts of Season 1 were establishing a supernatural noir procedural, a framework inside of which Kate's tough-as-nails cop with baggage fit rather well. But episodes like I Will Remember You, Somnambulist, and The Prodigal hint at a more epic direction, and ultimately are the most accurate representations to this point of what Angel the show turns into. This episode feels like an effort to steer Kate's character more in that other direction. It kind of works, but pitting her against Angel going forward also puts her outside the ensemble, a position from which it can be difficult for the writers to develop their character, and often relegates those characters to throw in scenes meant to remind the audience they're still on the show. I love the episode's title and its reference to the prodigal son. The prodigal son is one of the parables of Jesus on loss and redemption. In the story, a father has two sons. The oldest son toils under his father's rule, uncelebrated. The youngest asks for his share of the family fortune, and upon receiving it, he moves to a distant country,
Quigley.
living and spending with great extravagance. The word prodigal actually means wastefully extravagant. After he loses his fortune, he comes to his senses and returns to his father to beg to be his servant. You could say he finds his soul, and his father welcomes him home with open arms, saying when his eldest son objects, "Your brother was dead and is alive again." The show has been developing quite a storm of father issues. Wesley's were hinted at in the previous episode. Kate's father doesn't show love because it might be a sign of weakness. Liam's father can't see who Liam is through the fog of his own imposed expectations and the belief that Liam will never live up to them. People with the power in these sorts of relationships, whether unconsciously or deliberately, maintain control over their loved ones by withholding love and affection, keeping them desperate for it. Kate points out in Sense and Sensitivity that after her mom died, her father just withdrew, which allowed him the dual power of insulating himself from further pain, as well as keeping Kate pursuing him. Liam's inability to live up to his father's expectations produced a powerful lack of self-worth, the template for the demon that took him over. It follows then that Angelus would have a galvanized desire to conquer and destroy, to dominate as thoroughly and brutally as he could, in as clever a way as he could find. His first act with Darla, after all, is to destroy his entire village. But self-determination isn't actually measured by power over others, and Angel's relationship to Darla throughout the episode undermines the notion that becoming a vampire has elevated him beyond Liam's desires. In the graveyard scene, he gives Darla such a childlike look for approval as he kills his first human. Even as a monster,
That look, actually, I think, so I'm kind of setting up how his relationships have been repeating themselves since his father, including with Buffy, and that look that he gives her was so specific and stood out to me so much that it kind of informed the entire review. The entire structure of this review is based on that look. But I think it holds up. The music from Miss Calendar's review. You son of a bitch! Well, you hear it coming. Like, I'm giving you the warning. Yeah, La Boheme. Agree. It sounds like my mom.
Will always be trying to fill the void left by his human template. And that grounds Angel's relationships to this point, with both Darla and Buffy. From the graveyard scene here all the way to Sunnydale 200 years later when Darla entraps Angel and tries to get him to go after Buffy, we see the power she lords over him because of Liam's original desperate desire for his father's validation. In Buffy's third season, once she'd broken up with Angel in Lover's Walk, and with the aid of some psychological torture from the first, Angel was again looking to escape his emotional traps and self-hatred.
Am I a thing worth saving, huh? Am I a righteous man?
Considering his pattern of relationships, then, leaving Sunnydale to come to L.A. might have been one of Angel's first genuine acts of self-determination. It wasn't an act of childhood rebellion, as when Liam left home, or a decision made from his selfish desires. It was a decision made from Angel's integrity. And that decision proves Darla wrong.
Your victory
See you, Mercury.
over him took but moments.
Yes?
But his defeat of you will last lifetimes.
That was the perspective of the soulless. Similar to the mayor's statement.
People were quick to point out that she was actually right because he didn't fix the problem for many lifetimes, which is true. Kind of missing the point of what I was trying to say, but that's my fault for the way it was worded.
To faith in this year's girl that without him her days were numbered. If the soul is the moral compass, a being who lacks one cannot make a decision in opposition to their own self-interests, effectively meaning they lack free will. Ironically, I think the way out of all of this...
The same holds true for fear, so I thought that was kind of important.
Interests, effectively the soulless. Similar to the mayor's statement to faith in this year's girl that without him her days were numbered. If the soul is the moral compass, a being who lacks one cannot make a decision in opposition to their own self-interests, effectively meaning they lack free will. Ironically,
so if you're an id monster completely driven by impulse and all of that, then that is your determining characteristic. So no free will, no choice, because the choice is always made for you. And one of the things I was trying to get at in Restless was the same holds true of fear. Undiagnosed fears, Xander's fear of his father, which drives all of his decisions, dictate his choices and sap his actual free will. his ability to choose the way Buffy did when she said, "I'm not alone." So that little piece there was an important one for me in sussing all of this out.
Clee, I think the way out of all of this, the friar's message that never made it to Romeo, was what Angel's father said to him as he tried to prevent him from leaving early in the episode.
Out of my way.
I was never in your way, boy.
And it's what makes that line so crushing. As much as our parents are gods to us when we're young, as we get older, hopefully we discover their simple humanity, flaws and all. While perhaps we don't always get to choose who we love, the love given or denied us need not determine who we are. We do that through our choices and our ensuing actions. And if we cede our self-worth and dignity to someone who abuses them, it's on us to realize that that was still our choice. The idea is not to try and take that power and self-determination back for ourselves, but to realize that it was always ours to begin with, or risk repeating that same pattern over and over and over again in future relationships. We can't control what the world does to us, but, as one of my favorites, Viktor Frankl, said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom.
That one means a lot to me. Scrolling back. Something, yeah, we'll do something blue. It bothers me that Angelus doesn't rise in vamp faced like literally every other vampire shown in the both series. I get it. Although, in fairness, if he didn't become a vampire, he wouldn't have been there anyway. Probably a reference to something that was in the guide. Sorry, Boris. Never noticed the soundtrack of La Boheme, nicely edited with Angelus grasping the sword of Akatla. Yeah, that was fun. Anytime that I can use the music from the show instead of having to rely on stock music is... if I can use the music from the show for dramatic effect instead of relying on stock music, but it still constitutes fair use, it's good. But I do have to think about that. Some of the early guides are not like that. Who are your favorite bands' music? I don't know. I'm not a big music guy. Mostly what I listen to is kind of a hodgepodge. I haven't, like, the last time I bought an album was, well, I did that Linkin Park video. When he committed suicide, I did a video about, what I was thinking about that day and how I was processing that. So that they're kind of a regular have been a regular staple in some of my stuff. Interesting, the parallels with Oedipus, Darla being both his sire, mother, and lover, motif that will be repeated. Yeah, Oedipus is huge in Angel, sadly, because it's gross. If you've seen Buffy, but not, you're more evil than Angel. I appreciate that. Hey all, glad I could be here and hope the stream goes well. Thanks, Ian. Thank you, Megan. Do you have a favorite comic series? I mean, nothing surprising. I was really into Cerebus for a while. I still have a lot of the graphic novels. I mean, I enjoy The Watchmen and The Killing Joke. The major kind of heavy hitters. The Deadpan Anaconda reading, that's on the other channel. I'm not adverse to doing another pop music poetry video at some point. Oh yeah. The really bad episodes. So my hierarchy of importance when I'm writing and making something is, number one, it has to be entertaining. Because if it's not entertaining, it doesn't matter how. It's just not worth watching. Number two, informing, and number three, I have to be getting better every time. But when the episodes are bad, you lean pretty hard into one.
It was going so well. The beginning had been a little dry, and we'd sometimes gone overboard on the camp. But we'd had such great times together. Some wonderful, emotional moments. I'd even found some appreciation for expecting. And then she came along.
I get visions. We do things a certain way.
At last the roof goes on, and nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong.
Cordy. I do coffee and a book. That's why I don't. I'm partially why I don't read the. I mean, I still enjoy I enjoyed parts of that series, but there's no reason for me to ever go back. Something. Yeah, no, we're not watching She. Although I was really happy with the research and the slant I took on the material in that one. And the thing is, like, people just don't watch the episode guides for bad episodes. So I think there's good stuff about the tropes and what they were going for with that one in that video. Something blue. There it is. Something Blue reminds me of the Zeppo a bit. It's a spiral of great playful moments, one on top of the other, that represent the writers feeling completely empowered to play with these wonderful established characters. When you consider school hard...
I'll make it quick. It won't hurt a bit.
No, Spike. It's gonna
It
hurt
hurt a lot. To this episode...
That's my girl. Stop that right now. I can hear the smacking.
And that it doesn't feel cheap or unearned, Willow found.
The other thing, too, is these kinds of episodes are also difficult to review because, one of the most common comments that I get is, you forgot XXX. You know, I don't mention someone's favorite line or favorite bit or favorite whatever, and the thing is, the episode guides are not intended to be sort of complete coverings of the episode. You can just go watch the episode. They're not like highlight reels of the episode. We're trying to have a conversation. So an episode like Something Blue that is just overloaded with great lines and hilarious bits and all of that can be. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting to read the comments, Callum. Yeah, we can give that a go. Is intimidating because it's just like, well, I can't show the whole episode. So you have to find sneaky ways of fitting in sort of the highlight lines. But anyway. Found her way to magic over seasons, and the haywire spell here is an expression of her grief. You really get a sense of what makes Buffy such a special and unique series. And this episode foreshadows tonally the things the show is capable of at its heights. Always talking about 6. Willow is still feeling the effects of Oz's departure as she wanders his abandoned room and seeks his scent in his left-behind clothing. Riley and Buffy are still fumbling through some adorable early dating problems.
Is there something you want to tell me?
What? Oh.
I am a lesbian.
I am a lesbian.
And Riley inadvertently hints at Buffy's secret identity.
There's a lot about you that needs puzzling out.
Out on patrol, Buffy is telling Willow all about the latest news between Riley and her, but seems strangely ambivalent.
But I just feel like something's missing.
He's not making you miserable?
Spike is still being held captive at Casa de Giles, and Buffy is pumping him for information. Spike, unable to fend for himself, might be prolonging the situation to be taken care of, and Buffy feeding him blood through a straw out of the Kiss the Librarian mug is one of the most memorable and hilarious single images in the series. Willow is putting on a good front for her friends, and both Giles and Buffy mention how she appears to be doing better.
What, are you people blind? She's hanging on by a thread.
This sets up an interesting element of Spike's character that we'll touch on later. Willow returns to Oz's room again and finds it's empty. After a meltdown, she first gets drunk at the Bronze off one beer, what a lightweight. As Buffy tries to get through to her, the two of them have some surprisingly foreshadowy conversations.
I just can't stand feeling this way.
I know. It's just how it is. You have to go through the pain.
But instead of coping, Willow once again...
Non-contextual visual spoiler.
Turns to Matt.
But she actually says what Willow is not doing in the back half of season 6. I don't know if you guys have watched the top 10 list with the Willow grief bit in there, but that line I was struck by. Wow, that's it. That's the whole thing right there. Of the Doctor Who series that you watch, what were some that you either really liked or really hated? We can take a look. Doctor Who is kind of foggy for me right now. But again, I don't know that it would be a particularly interesting list. The thing I enjoyed about the show were the ones that are classic and everyone loved, like Blink. It was the midline for that show, sort of the average, your average middle of the road episode that for me just wasn't enjoyable. And I think if if that's not landing for you, it's just not your show. You need to read Sandman comics. Trust me, so good. I have the first 3 graphic novels on my shelf. I just haven't gotten around to them. We will read comments. I did watch Voyager. I did not mispronounce Giles and Restless. I just gave it a weird sort of southerny drawl, and I think it sounds like Giles, but I said Giles. I know what I said. Do you watch The Orville? I was surprised that it's better than Star Trek, than the last Star Trek show. I don't. I have heard that. He's basically doing Next Generation, and that's okay with me. I would be interested in watching it. You look like the guy from Egotastic who does Star Trek stuff. Don't know who that is, but good on him for being a handsome gentleman. Magic to solve her grief. We've been here before with Lover's Walk and Wild at Heart. And the pairing here of Willow turning to both alcohol and magic to numb her pain is the strongest metaphor for magic as vice, since Giles revealed he once abused black magic to get high in the Dark Age. The spell doesn't appear to do anything. The next day, Giles comes to check on Willow, and in a fit of frustration, she tells him he doesn't see anything, causing Giles to lose his vision. Spike escapes from the impaired Giles, and Buffy has to leave Willow to go and find him. When she does, Willow once again accidenta spells, this time sending Buffy right to him. The accidenta spells trigger Spike and I don't know why I haven't used that more. I like that accidenta spell. I guess there aren't very many accidenta spells. Buffy into a hilarious romance and engagement, and Xander into a demon magnet. After one of the most insanely delightful set of scenes on the show, the gang figures out that Willow is the cause of the mayhem. Anya's old boss, De Hoffren, played by Andy Umberger, making his second appearance in the Buffyverse this year after playing the psychic surgeon in the Angel episode I Fall to Pieces, brings Willow to his dimension and offers her a job as a vengeance demon. Will turns him down, and everything returns to normal. Will guilt bakes that evening.
Don't I get the cookie?
No.
There isn't a whole lot here that is of consequence to the season, but there is a lot of character development. For instance, Buffy telling Riley she's engaged is brushed off rather easily, though his final line is unbelievably cringe-inducing.
You really have a lot to learn about women, Riley.
You're gonna teach me.
Ugh. Ugh. What a weird and terrible last line for a wonderful single episode. In fairness, other than that bit of explosive cringe, I do think that Riley gets a little unfairly associated with the stunted and awkward will we or won't we dance he and Buffy do in the early half of season 4. For some people, this phase of a relationship is stunted and awkward. It rings true to me. So why didn't the spell work the way Willow wanted?
Out of my passions a web be spun. From this eve forth, my will be done.
Well, the key word being passions. She can't perfect the book because it isn't something she feels passionate for. And when she wills that her heart be healed, well, there's an inherent contradiction to emotionally not wanting to feel any emotions. She doesn't actually feel passionately yet about wanting to heal. Her actions leading up to the scene, including with the alcohol, are all a passion for denial, not healing. No, the thing that Willow feels passionately for is Oz, and had any of her wording included him in this episode, things might have gone differently. Regardless of whether she intended the spell to affect just her, as opposed to the previous time she used magic for selfish ends, a pattern around Willow's ability to cope continues to emerge. And I love the double meaning inherent to her conversation with Buffy midway through.
I am a bad witch.
No, you're a good witch.
Buffy thinks they're talking about Willow's ability, but she also doesn't yet know about Willow's magical misuse from here and in Season 3. But Willow knows, and her self-hatred could also allow us to read bad versus good as dark versus light, evil versus benevolent. Accepting Willow's suffering, this may actually be the funniest episode in the series, and I think there's an interesting question of what makes an episode that borders on sitcom work in a series as dramatic as Buffy. I think preventing an episode like this from feeling like a very special one-off, rather than one that is still grounded in the universe, is done by properly employing the use of perspective. As we talked about in the Zeppo, that story, which seems to be mocking the drama we love so much, works because we're seeing the world through Xander's perspective. The world isn't suddenly changing and behaving in a way we're unfamiliar with. I'm not sure Something Blue would have worked as well had everyone begun behaving in opposition to their normal characters. But the reason why so much of the comedy between Spike and Buffy works as well as it does is because Giles carries the grounded perspective of the show.
Oh, for God's sake, this is nonsense. Something is making you act this way. Don't you realize what you're doing?
But there are so many moments of comedic brilliance, and some of it feels as though it reaches the level of Mammoth-like verbal ballet.
Spike and I are getting married.
How? What? How?
3 excellent questions.
And we see just a crazy willingness by the writers to absolutely commit to the humor. Take the Amy joke. Actress Elizabeth Allen hasn't been on the show since Gingerbread, and she returns for a 3-second and naked hilarious cameo. This episode also has one of my favorite lines in the series when Xander and Anya discover Spike and Buffy making out.
Can I be blind too?
Though it's less funny if you really think about it. The episode was written by Tracy Forbes, writer of the major hits Beer Bad and Where the Wild Things Are. Douglas Petrie is listed as the executive story editor on this one, and given the standout goodness of it, it seems likely that he had a major hand in it. As usual, the title has a nice double meaning. Something Blue is from an old folk rhyme detailing what a bride should wear at her wedding for good luck. Something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. Blue is also a synonym for depressed, in this case Willow. In keeping with the Scoobies acting as a metaphorical model for Buffy, it's no surprise then that in this episode what is up for Willow is letting go. As let's not forget, Buffy has just returned from LA, visiting Angel and the events of I Will Remember You, which she comments on in the episode's opening.
Seeing Angel in LA, even for 5 minutes. Hello to the pain.
There is an idea here that Buffy may need to let go of the only model she's currently had for love, if she's to have it.
I find this so weird that I did this. I mean, I like the writing, and I was speaking from the heart, so that's why it works. It's just so bizarre.
Again with someone else, in this case, Riley. When two people connect, they create something wholly unique between them. A strand of emotional DNA made when one person's heart pairs with another. And to expect that same tapestry to emerge in the next relationship is a good way to prevent love from happening again. But in truth, the idea of getting over it is probably a lie. Implying that we somehow clear away the refuse of the last relationship.
That could have been
our way back
better,
to emotionally unsullied single and adventure onward. That just isn't what letting go actually is. Letting go is a muscle untensing. And though a relationship may end, that doesn't leave us more incomplete than we were. Everything shared, everything we became in their light, and all the love they gave us, we carry it with us. Always.
All right, so, this is the worst spoiler I've ever put in a video, I think. I feel terrible about this one, but I was like Daryl wanting Michael to get the job and teaching him more black man phrases. Anyway, I could not stop myself.
I'm cookie dough.
Don't I get the cookie?
Yeah. Okay, so I put a poll up. The thing I wanted to ask you guys, we've been going now for about 90 minutes. Still season 5 ending in Buffy movie. I don't know which one you're talking about. Spoiler cookies. I put a poll in chat. I'll do it again right now. So I've been thinking about it. The Firefly episode guide is 14 video. Why you should watch 14 episode guides and then the movie review. That's like 3 months at the rate that I've been going. And so this morning I thought, what if we added it to the rotation? So I do the projects that I have on the burner right now. We're redoing the HD remaster review, And then I want to do a little comic book project, which I've been thinking about for a while. People seem to enjoy the last channel news video, so I was going to do another live action. And then why you should watch Firefly and the Firefly episode guide. But maybe instead of doing all 14 reviews of Firefly in a row, and so not getting to Buffy Season 5, Angel Season 2 for like 3-4 months, we add Firefly to the rotation. So it would be Buffy, Angel, Firefly, Buffy, Angel, Firefly. So that means those episode guides come sooner, but release slower until the Firefly episode guide is done. So there is a poll up. Link to vote again, and when the Buffy remaster is finished, which is why the gentleman who I collaborated with on that project want to remake the video. I don't know if you guys know, but I did a what's wrong with Buffy's HD video a while ago, where
by some
at this point the remaster was about halfway finished, and they wrote a script, I read it, but they edited it together. I told them I would like to here's the link to the poll again. It's on the community tab. If you did all of Firefly at once, would that be too much of a good thing? Possibly. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. But whatever the vote stands at tomorrow is what I'm going to go with, what I'm going to do. So I have a lot of fun stuff in my head for Buffy Season 5. But, you know, having 3 the thing is, too, my goal would be to accelerate my release schedule so that I'm doing more than one video a week. Obviously, that's not possible with landmark episodes like Restless, but we'll see those as they come along. So there you go. But anyway, we're redoing this video, and this time I'm going to edit it, so it's a little more my style. And it'll be nice for the channel if we get anywhere close to that. Which I am appreciative to them for agreeing to do that. 86% voted sequentially. That's fascinating. I did not think that was... Oh. Wow, rotate. Okay. How many voted? 66 votes. Okay. Well, there might be a lot more by tomorrow, so I'll leave it. I scroll back. I think I missed some of your questions. Where's spoiler? Can't wait to see your thoughts on Spuffy. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Oh, and I got you guys the link. I've been waiting for Fool for Love for 2 years now. That's one of my favorite episodes in the series. I don't know how to vote. Link. I'll put the link in again. Yeah, the wording is a little bad. I couldn't think of the ideal way of phrasing it. Sorry about that, Boris. I feel a little selfish asking for rotating, but it looks like rotating is winning. I'm fine with rotating. I actually think the variety would be good. It just means that, you know, if I do take a week of video, it's like one Buffy video per month. But if you guys, the goal here is to accelerate my production process. 5x5. 93% rotate. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, we were going to watch a Jax edit. Whatever is easiest for the upload schedule and workload. So excited for all those things, but don't want you to be overworked. Well, it's my job now. It's not overworked. It's the worked. Yeah, I enjoyed Somnambulist, but Patreon rating, She was pretty good. Darkest Hour. That one was brutal. Or are we doing the whole? We're not doing the whole Faith quadrilogy. I'm gonna cut us off in about 20 minutes. That'll be close to 2 hours. It's been fun. I enjoy doing this with you guys. I hope you like hanging out and chatting, and watching stuff together. Rotate, Ian, rotate. Superstar Eternity. All right, we can go 5x5. This is a long one. Do we want to watch the whole thing? Hey, Box. I've tried to make the script for this video entirely self-contained. However, its viewing is enhanced greatly by having watched 2 previous... Boy, did I not expect... I prefer sequential, but I think the rotation makes that spread a bit better. No cheese on the head. I thought you wore the cheese. Well, it's in the thumbnail, and I don't currently have any craft in the house. Yes. Oh, we do want to watch the whole thing. Okay. You guys like this? These you want to do these more often? These kind of hang out and watch videos together and just talk? Let me know. This is kind of fun. And with the edit streams, I'm actively working, so it's different. Do you have anything on the horizon with Shan? Maybe. If she wants me back. Yes, videos of mine. The Buffy episode guides for... You should do a collab with Council of Geeks. You have very different styles, but I think you'd play well together. I forgot to bookmark that. Let me do that right now. Yes, love it. Love the hangouts. Yeah, I'm down. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Maybe like a once a month kind of thing. Yeah, and we can go over the previous review and kind of dissect it or whatever. Or just chat about what's new. Lie to Me and Amends, respectively. Both are linked in the description. During Angel's run, the series experienced 2 reinventions where the skeleton of the show itself was changed. I mentioned in the last episode that there had already been a shift away from the case of the week, with Angel as the protective guardian, to a greater focus on our trio of do-gooders. But 5x5 cauterized. I have no idea how this... this won't supplant the Patreon hangout. It's just something different. I have no idea how this video spiraled quite the way it did. I had never done the psychology particularly well, and I mean, the ending is so good. The whole back half of this episode is just unbelievable. And the more I kept kind of writing and picking at it and writing and picking at it, I stumbled on things I hadn't explained before. I'd never done a full run through of Faith's arc. So it turned into 22 minutes. Prizes that change. You and Shan to do once more Patreon hangout. Yeah. Top 3 MCU films. Infinity War, Civil War, and Into the Spider-Verse. It counts in my book. Are you planning on doing a collab with Lonnie? I most definitely am. She and I have been so busy we haven't gotten in touch in a while. Thank you for reminding me. Let's put that in the list. Do you sell shirts? Oh, yeah. No, that's another thing, is to get the website going. No, not yet. But we have plenty of ideas, and we'll take submissions. If anyone's an artist and wants to throw in, my email address is in the videos. Otherwise, we're going to get a lot of hashtag shirts. But I do want a hashtag cookie dough shipper shirt. Be interested in tracing Willow's character, similar to your approach in Faith here. Some of that exists in the top 10 list. The top 10 something, everything is going to be all right. With your analytic type mind, I feel like you would be a good scriptwriter. It's a different beast. I've been thinking more and more about just writing some fiction for fun and recreation. I got about 150 pages into a novel I was writing and stopped. And I'm going to do an MCU guide. Click. And uses the Raging Slayer to reintroduce Angel's mission statement. This is a terrific episode and a fan favorite for good reason. I have a couple of issues with it here and there, but it reminds me of the Buffy episode Passion. Like Passion, the final act leaves me holding my breath and elevates 5x5 to one of my favorite episodes of the series. In this video, I also want to have a discussion about Faith's arc. And since Faith is a former psychological symbol of Buffy's and works as a direct analogy to
to Angel, there is a lot to talk about. Pay close attention to this one and Sanctuary. These are linchpins for both shows and what they have to say about love, redemption, Sunnydale, LA, Buffy, and Angel.
I love doing changes to the opening theme music.
Five by Five begins with a rather long and epic previously on, covering a full season plus 2 episodes of Buffy. A street criminal is being chased by 3 demon assassins when Angel and Wesley roll up and save him. Again, I'm always pleasantly surprised by the show's willingness to go there with the demon gore. It's definitely something unique to Angel the series. At the bus station, Faith appears in a reveal that always gives me a little chill and mugs a lowlife for his jacket and abode. Faith already looks angeled up from the hyper-saturated Buffy Season 4. Her time since the church appears to be wearing heavily on her. In flashback, we see Angel killing the Romani girl that would eventually lead to his re-ensoulment.
I
Then
said
follows a
Romani.
bit of an odd sequence. While Angel tries to save the soul of the ruffian, Cordy says all men are nothing but surface.
Generally speaking, you don't change a guy. What you see is what you get. Scratch the surface, and what do you find? More surface.
Cut to where Faith dances up on a girl's boyfriend, and he doesn't care. Faith decks the girlfriend, the guy tries to hit her, and she takes him out. This begins a melee in the bar, which Faith dances her way through as though it isn't there. There are a few things going on here, one of which I'll save for the end of the video. First, the bit with the couple works as a sort of pantomime callback to what happened with Riley and Buffy in Sunnydale. Skipping over the consent issue here, you can go watch that episode guide for the discussion. And then Faith ended up hurting both Riley and Buffy in the process. The dancing through the melee also works symbolically for her willingness to just ignore the chaos she's created. And
But one of my favorite shirt ideas someone threw out was just a shirt of arrows. Weird how that became a joke. Just arrows.
acting the way she always has. Just close your eyes and keep dancing. I like the themes, it's just the execution plays out a little campy to me, slightly Benny Hill. In court, Evil Bazinga and Lindsay are about to close a case when Angel brings in the reformed ruffian and turns over Lindsay's apple cart.
He became Evil Bazinga because I just could never remember his name, and he looked like Evil Bazinga guy to me. That was really all it was.
An Evil Bazinga schemed to get Faith to kill Angel, and Lila wants in. Lila finds Faith at the bar.
I guess we could go somewhere and talk. Although I'm not much of a talker, I'm more of a doer.
I think you might have misunderstood my intentions.
The evil trio makes Faith their offer in exchange for
lesbian subtext, Bell.
Killing Angel, and Evil Bazinga makes the mistake of thinking he's in charge. Faith politely corrects him.
Bazinga.
How do you look now?
Bazinga.
She shows initiative.
Back in flashback, a newly ensouled Angel returns to Darla, who is confused.
What is this? Have you met someone else?
No, buddy. I just feel
something
besides the cold.
Darla kicks him out, and Angel tries to feed again, but his conscience won't let him. Faith tries an old trick she'd used on Angel before. It doesn't work.
That was so cool.
Angel suggests Team Angel split up. His persistent early attempts to keep people away from him in the first season are part of the point of the first season. But after it's gone badly enough often enough, it starts to feel a little like Cabin in the Woods level satire.
We gotta play it safe. No matter what happens, we have to stay together. This isn't right. We should split up. We can cover more ground that way.
Yeah. Yeah, good idea.
Really?
Later that day, Faith tosses Angel a gun to see if he'll shoot her. He aims for her torso. I don't know why he throws the gun back to her, blanks or no, but she uses it to try and needle him into action. At her place, Dennis tries not to let Cordy and Wes in. I love Dennis, but when he finally does, Faith is there.
I realize there have been failures on both sides. But I also believe in my heart that you are not a bad person.
What What do you believe in your heart now?
This is as significant an episode for Wesley as for anyone else. If everyone on Angel is in LA to atone for something, then the need for Wesley's redemption was created from failure as Faith's watcher. This moment with Faith gives him a real chance to atone for his previous failures. Wesley absolutely knows he can't overpower her. If he can avoid playing into her game, letting her actions inflame his anger, and just find a way to get through to... Okie dokie. Instead, Wesley acts quickly and violently without consideration to the cost. It may be a fist pump moment watching Wesley stand up to the out-of-control Slayer, who has been taking a wrecking ball to all the people we care about, but it's significant that Wesley just forfeited this possibility of atonement for vengeance, and validated the toxic behavior of someone in a suicidal tailspin who is trying desperately to convince everyone that she is not worth saving. It's a shocking moment, and more important than it may seem. This begins a remarkable scene between them. It's a case study in dramatic tension and character, incredibly tense, but there's very little violence shown in the shot. Everything is implied, hinted at. The actual horror isn't on screen. And what makes it work are just monumental performances from Dushku and Denisov, along with some pitch-perfect musical coverage. As strong as he is in this scene, Faith's attempts to terrorize Wesley worked on me completely.
We've only done one of the 5 basic torture groups. We've done blunt, but that still leaves sharp, cold, hot, and loud.
And the Riley sex
In
face.
an episode that wasn't quite holding together for me, this scene is Giles's walk up the stairs to La Boheme. There is no looking away from this moment on.
I was your watcher, Faith. I know the real you. And even if you kill me, there's just one thing I want you to remember. You are a piece of shit.
You should talk.
We've seen Wesley's vulnerability in
So
earlier
good.
episodes, but this episode gives us a glimpse of something darker, something more vengeful. It is also the end of bumbling Wesley. As the series has gone on, there has been a growing pattern of rashness or impulsivity revealed in Wesley's character, and it appears that Faith is succeeding in convincing everyone else what she is.
You're nothing! Disgusting! Murderous bitch! You're nothing!
The bad guy. As Angel tracks her down, Faith looks emptily at a shard of glass covered in Wesley's blood, which she drops half-heartedly into the alley. I wondered if it was to bait Angel closer with the smell, but after making Faith a terrifying character through the torture of another that I already loved, Dushku and company did enough with one single shot to completely restore my empathy for her. It's kind of a marvel. In the shard of glass we see the horror of what she's done, and in her expression we see her horror at who she is. As Faith menaces Wesley with a blowtorch, Angel comes in to save the day. This is a terrific fight, but what makes it work for me so much more are Angel's lines during the brawl. First, he cuts instantly to the quick of her braggadocious artifice.
This isn't about Wesley. It's about you and me.
No, baby, he's payback.
For what? I thought you were happy with the way you are.
That's
He is
so good.
Incisive in this scene. This could be one of my favorite Angel moments in the series. The writer's using everything that he is so he can save someone. Wesley breaks loose, and so does the fight. But it's important the way Angel fights, never really with initiative. He deflects, he drains, but he doesn't really attack. When she lunges with a stake, Angel takes the fight outside.
I wish I could make the world a better place for you to wake up in. But the hard pill to swallow here is that once I'm gone, your days are just plain numbered.
And as Angel strips away Faith's reasons for attacking him, her real intentions start to become clear. Wesley cuts himself free and grabs a knife to jump into the fray, but in the alleyway, Faith's defense is crumbling.
I know what you want. And I'm not gonna do it.
Before we go any further, let's look at what has led up to this moment to try and understand the characters in the Buffyverse in a way we maybe haven't before. We've spoken at great lengths about the show's philosophy and portrayal of the soul as the moral compass, and how it is the moral compass that enables us to make choices that might be contrary to our own self-interests, as varied as those self-interests may be. In other words, the soul is what empowers us with genuine free will and the possibility of making choices that fill our life with meaning. To this point, we've also spoken vaguely about the role that love has played in the philosophical model. Buffy's show makes clear that one of the reasons for her longevity as the Slayer is the love she shares for the people around her. Mother, father in Giles, and Xander and Willow.
You're the Slayer, and we're like the Slayerettes.
But I've also suggested that the soulless and the evil in the Buffyverse can love. Lacking a soul doesn't make you incapable of loving, just incapable of loving selflessly. To put it all into perspective, it's useful if we take a look at the 3 Slayers we've met in the Buffyverse so far: Faith, Buffy, and Kendra, all 3 of which have souls. Loosely, the 3 of them actually work quite well as symbols for Freud's 3 aspects of the human personality: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id, Faith in this case, is our inner child. The id is the source of every impulsive desire we have towards loving and being loved, joy, rage, and, post-adolescence, sex. As much as we might intellectualize and romanticize our ability to love, babies aren't born with any sense of duty or purpose, but obviously are attached to and show affection for their mothers from birth. Attachment and affection are just terms.
That's a surprisingly spoilery, non-contextual shot. A little shot of Connor.
That fall under the broad umbrella spectrum by which we define love. And as we get older and become more complex, so too do the ways in which we desire and show affection for the people closest to us. Kendra, symbolically, would be the superego, pursuing duty and the ideals of the Watchers to a fault, almost totally at the expense of love, friends, or indulgence of any earthly impulses. This element of personality is not the soul itself, but it requires one in order to be present, which is why vampires are all id monsters. For now, Buffy is the ego, or balance between, walking the tightrope between the passionless superego
That would be anger you're feeling.
and the reckless and impulsive id.
But it does not mean that we get to pass judgment on people like we're better than everybody else.
We are better.
But Buffy's show is about becoming an adult that lives with authenticity, which to me means accepting an ongoing process of integrating the impulses of her id and the demands of her superego into her own unified identity. In other words, someone who loves herself while always striving to be better. And the engine of that process is living an examined life.
You must be so disappointed in me.
I know you. Anne. So afraid, so pathetically determined to run away from whatever it is you used to be. To disappear.
I'm Buffy, the vampire slayer, and you are? Before I was the slayer, I was... Well, I don't
This
wanna
is the
say
self-awareness
shallow,
we were
but
talking about in Restless.
Let's say a certain person who will remain nameless. We'll just call her Spordelia. Looked like a classical philosopher next to me.
Becoming a better human being, then, is not simply a matter of environmental coincidence combined with the inevitability of time, but requires a healthy, as in non-neurotic, amount of introspection. We can't actually make a meaningful choice if we deny what we've done, or who we are genuinely in this moment. And to some degree, Angel's show is more full of characters grappling with that ongoing process of adulthood than Buffy's.
And if it goes away, it's like...
Like what?
Like I'm still getting punished.
For what?
I don't know. For how I was. For everything that I said in high school, just because I could get away with it.
Why you? We all got something to atone for.
I'm a fraud. The council was right to sack me.
What do you want, Angel?
I want forgiveness.
Yes. That's the truth.
As I've said before, if Buffy is principally a show about growing up, then Angel is a show about being an adult. It's important to make the distinction that just because Kendra and Faith work well as symbols doesn't mean they aren't also complex characters. Kendra had human impulses, but denied them in the name of duty. Faith acts almost entirely impulsively, but there have always been indications that she wants to do more, as when she fell victim to Gwendolyn Post's manipulations, or even her subconscious dream self giving Buffy the key to the mayor. There is much evidence in the Buffyverse to suggest that a necessary balance for living a moral, ethical life is love. As the title suggests with Out of Sight, Out of Mind, Marcy's inability to connect with anyone around her eventually led her to turn completely invisible, and following that, insane.
The loneliness, the constant exile, she has gone mad.
Hers is not simply a hedonistic spree of violence. Jonathan's inability to connect with anyone led to his suicide attempt in the clock tower, where Buffy tried to share with him the perspective that everyone is suffering. Everyone is turned inward. But rather than developing that empathy for everyone else and letting that bring some peace to his own pain, in Superstar he made himself the nexus of everyone's focus.
Jonathan, you can't keep trying to make everything work out with some big gesture all at once.
One way or another, our innate desire to love and be loved must be grappled with. But I wouldn't dare oversimplify as to say the reason Faith committed evil was because she wasn't loved enough. We all suffer loneliness and loss and cruelty. But certainly Faith came to Sunnydale with some open wounds and lacking the tools for closure. She makes no mention of her father, but her mother is dead, and we can infer what her upbringing was like.
Mom was so busy, enjoying the drinking and passing out parts of life that I never really got what I wanted.
She also witnessed her watcher's grisly murder. She has a use them and lose them attitude to any of the men in her life.
All men are beasts, Buffy.
They are not a source for connection. But she and Buffy were, for a few episodes, on the verge of making that necessary connection for her, before the recklessness and impulsiveness which she brought along with her to Sunnydale causes a morally abhorrent act that she can't take back. And she reacts as someone with a hungry, unfed id might.
There is no body. I took it, weighted it, and dumped it. Body doesn't exist.
Unable to take responsibility for her actions. Her denial causes a permanent rift with the one person she might actually have had a healthy connection to. And I think perhaps having been the victim of some monstrous acts in her lifetime, the only way she can understand Alan's murder is that she too must be a monster. And with that, Faith tumbles into darkness, abandoning free will for the only source of connection she can find. The problem is that the mayor was soulless. And because of that, the mayor's love could only be conditional. In this case, upon his being able to control her.
Oh, hey, shoes. If you failed me in that way, well, replacing Mr. Trick was chore enough.
He didn't hold Faith to any higher moral standard as Buffy, Xander, and Willow hold each other, because he was incapable of one himself. But he did love her, and one of his final acts on Earth was to leave a message.
He made her a tape!
Last shot at Buffy. After the body swap in Who Are You, Faith gets a taste of the life she's always wanted. A mother who loves her, friends who include her, a tender, intimate boyfriend, and people who express great gratitude towards her for being the Slayer. Her decision to go to the church is her first moral choice she's made since Alan's death. But she doesn't want to live as Buffy has. She wants to be Buffy because she...
You're nothing! Disgusting! Murderous bitch!
...is tainted. When 5x5 begins, we find her dancing alone, eyes closed as the violent consequences of her actions domino around her. This scene is so reminiscent of another that I think we might interpret what she's imagining as she moves alone across the floor. And the name of the club is Club Hell, a callback to another episode, Anne, when Buffy abandoned her calling and ended up a nameless nothing in a hell dimension surrounded by victims she couldn't save.
What is hell but the total absence of hope?
Tactile
the
proof
tactile
of
proof of despair.
But in Faith's hell, she is the devil, the rotten and selfish monster ignoring choice and free will, because not doing so would mean having to take responsibility for the deeds she can't take back. It's a hell in which she is the evil person she's afraid she is, constantly escalating the violence with a single specific purpose in mind. In the finale, she regularly refers to herself as bad, which we can interpret in this case as someone who has murdered, and she uses the same term for Angel.
I thought you were bad!
And since she had a soul and murdered several people, she thought she might be able to get Angel to kill her if given enough incentive. She even tests if Angel is ready to go all the way.
You didn't shoot to kill. We're gonna have to up the stakes.
Just as Faith's story parallels Buffy going to LA to escape herself and ending up in hell, there were two instances of Angel attempting suicide because he had given up hope. The first I pointed out earlier in Buffy Season 1, Episode 7, and the second is in Amends. To be clear though, the weight of the soul may often be a source of despair, regret, and hopelessness, but suicide is still an act that emerges from our id, which is why Spike is capable of attempting it. It's an act motivated to remove oneself from suffering, pain done to you, or the pain of what you've done, coupled with the belief that things are truly hopeless, that either we lack the ability to affect actual change in our lives, or that we don't deserve it.
Am I a thing worth saving, huh? Am I a righteous man?
After Angel decides to keep fighting, his first real client was actually Faith in Consequences.
If you can trust us, Faith, this can all change. You don't have to disappear into the darkness.
Wesley botched Angel's chance there, but in the final scene of the episode, despite all the horror she's capable of inflicting on him and his family...
I know what you want. And I'm not
not gonna do it.
Angel's unwillingness to kill her and to bear every punch is an immutable act of compassion. Finally, for Faith, and after she's done absolutely everything she can to prove she doesn't deserve it, an act of selfless, authentic love. And if she's worth that, then maybe it follows that there's hope. After all, the episode in which Faith premiered was called Faith, Hope, and Trick, which was a play on Corinthians 13:13, and now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. It's complex, it's beautiful, it's gut-wrenching. I love this episode. The psychological mechanics going on are absolutely lovely. And as much as I may have a complaint or two about the opening, the back half is flawless and just emotionally devastating. Wesley dropping the knife is one of the most beautiful and cinematic shots in the series. And if Angel lacked a big bad before, Lila and Evil Bazinga scheming to have him killed certainly cements their role in the Angelverse. In this series, we've been using Buffy and Angel as mediums for discussing life, philosophy, and psychology. But I believe it's important to make an addendum to this one. As much as I think the characters work as interesting models for authentic living, they're always saved by another's love. Angel is saved from the void by Buffy twice.
This is a weird epilogue that I put into the script because I kind of thought it was dangerous to... I mean, depression and isolation is definitely something that I deal with, and to... I thought that the idea of being saved by another person or by another person's act of compassion needed this addendum. So that's Jonathan and here Faith. And that works well in drama. But the hard truth is that oftentimes our suffering is solitary. Our self-hatred, something that we flay ourselves with from the shadows. As I've said in other videos, part of finding the will to go and get the rock is not just believing that there are things worth fighting for, but accepting that you are one of them. In truth, I'm not sure that unconditional love exists, except in our capacity to give our own away freely, including to ourselves. And whatever has come before, there is in every passing moment an opportunity to create good. That's hope, which has ended up being my reason to hike back down the hill for another go with the rock. The hope that in a day or so I'll create something new that might provide someone a moment's peace. I don't always, but it happens sometimes. And when it does, it's enough.
She's one of us now. She's a monster.
She's an innocent victim.
So were we. Once upon a time. Once upon a time.
Ugh, that's bit's haunting. All right, friends. We can go ahead and wrap up there. Let's see where the vote is at. I'm gonna scroll through and double check for any questions I missed. Refresh. 133 votes. Rotate. It looks like we're going to be rotating in the cycle. Scrolling back. Best sequence of the video. I'm assuming that's the falling out the window. A tad off topic, but do you like Aaron Sorkin TV or films? I find his writing is as original as Joss's, with Glenn Gordon, Karen, and David E. Kelly. I enjoy some of his stuff. He actually can suffer from a similar thing that I think Joss does, which is being a little too clever. Everyone's too smart. And I also have had issues with some of his writing about women, though nothing springs specifically to mind. I'm just not as big as a fan. Still doesn't beat the Forest subtext bugle. I assume you're talking about the lesbian subtext bill with Lila and Faith in there. If you listen to the wording, it sounds like Lila picked Faith up, which I thought was interesting. Speaking of, it's struck twice. Speaking of the lesbian subtext, Bell, thoughts on the whole Faith was in love with Buffy thing? Well, I think I the reason the subtext bell exists is because I kind of ran through how heavy and obvious that subtext was. I don't remember what episode it was where I talked about it. I think it was the one with Faith's second watcher, Tafrim. Boris will know. The moment when Quinn says the moment when she starts beating him, and you hear Sheldon saying "bazinga" on each blow is the only time I have ever laughed at that word. That's really funny. Yeah. Have you thought about taking a break during the summer for the TV shows and watching and swapping over to do the MCU guide that you keep talking about? No, I think what'll end up happening is it'll be I take a day after I release an episode guide to work on other projects, and so the MCU guide will kind of be meted out as we go. I'm going to do the TV shows too, but I'm going to cover seasons in a single video rather than an episode guide for each. That would just be too much work. There's way too much MCU TV. But I do want to cover it. You know, I think Agent Carter deserves a shout out. That was a fun show. If you need a Merc shop, if you need a screen printer, I know a guy. I will keep that in mind. You should do a guide on the Nolan Batman films too. I think they're pretty well covered. I mean, so is the MCU for that matter, but I'll think about it. Great way to celebrate 20 years of Bad Girls and Wesley. Agreed. Oh yeah, visual pun. Scrolling back down. Excuse me. Don't know if you've ever watched Gilmore Girls, but I think you'd like it. It's on the list. I just have there's a lot of good stuff out there to watch, and then I end up watching Parks and Recreation for the 1000th time. Do you think there's a minimum and a maximum age a potential can be called to be a Slayer? They all seem to be teenagers. Does season 7 mean the aged out Slayers also get activated? Granny Slayer. That's interesting. Huh. I wonder if that's addressed in the comics. It seems like they age out if they're not activated. But that would be I would dig a Granny the Vampire Slayer book. Revelations, the Gwendolyn Post episode. Being too smart and having issues with how he writes women sounds like the sort of thing everyone says about Moffat. But I'm not super familiar with Moffat's work, other than the ones I've watched. Consequences, where you discuss Faith's lesbian subtext. Bad Girls is the Wesley introduction video that everyone likes. Applause. Thank you. Your videos always leave me thinking and feeling more than I thought I could. Keep up the good work. I appreciate it, Maggie. Thank you. I love that observation that we have to accept ourselves as a reason to get the rock. Well, that was the thing that was bugging me about the way that essay was turning out. It's a beautiful scene in the alley where she... I mean, it's a beautiful scene. It's one of the best scenes in Angel. But, you know, from the standpoint of the way I write these as sort of ruminations on how to live, or the way I choose to live, or my own personal philosophy, I was troubled by suggesting that someone in Faith's position needed to be saved, and so my attempt at redirection there was believing and loving yourself enough to save yourself was the idea. Yeah, so I think it turned out, I think it spoke, but that was important to me because, you know, I get lots of emails and stories from people who are in the shit and dealing with things and listen to the video content and feel better, and so it's important to me to honor that in a way that I feel is ethical and on the up and up. So I think we're good. So, the next video is the Buffy HD remaster review. No idea how long that's going to take. I'm hoping for just a couple days, but it can always spin. I probably won't do that as any kind of edit stream. Then this comic book project I've been talking about. Hey, Calvin. Just about wrapping up. Comic book project I've been talking about for a while, and then a live action vid. Work on an MCU series. I'm going to reach out to Lonnie. Then we'll do Why You Should Watch Firefly. And then the Firefly episode guide will become a part of the rotation. So we'll start with Buffy Season 5, which I am excited to edit because I have some ideas. And then Angel Season 2, and then the first episode of Firefly. And that'll be the rotation. Hopefully I can get more done in that amount of time. There might be a news video. Yeah, just a short one, 1 or 2 minutes. Do you have a P.O. box? I do. It's in the description of the video, other videos. Oh, I have an other video up here. There we go. Catherine, we're actually wrapping up. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoy these. It's fun. Just sit and talk about the videos, kind of what I was thinking, chat and answer questions. We could do one more. Do you want to do one more? What's the stream at? I was going to go 2 hours. We're at 1 hour and 46. I don't know. We kind of hit all the big hitters. Where is Where the Wild Things Are is the first set of arrows. Oh, and Riley's sex face is in the Iron Team. Now we're good. Yeah, I think we're good. Can you skip to Angel Season 5? I get it. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up there. All right, friends. Thanks for hanging out. And one vid more. Hush. All right, we can do Hush. Hush or Superstar. Next person who shouts in chat gets it. Hush. All right. Whoop. Boop. Hush is universally considered to be one of Buffy's greatest achievements, if not the greatest. Music, theme, design, and cinematography all inform each other and weave together in a perfect cheers. And Hush owns the distinction of being the only episode of the show to be nominated for an Emmy in writing, which is an irony considering that only 17 of its 44 minutes contain any dialogue. The show is known for subverting tropes and ideas, but here, in a way similar to the Zeppo, the show is subverting itself. Hush is a classic episode of not just Buffy, but television as a whole. Buffy is called to the front of the room by Professor Walsh to demonstrate the difference between communication and language. When she does, Riley is made to kiss her in front of everyone, and we realize she's in a dream. Just a quick bit of trivia, Whedon crammed every actor he could into this scene, and if you watch carefully, you see the first appearance of Andy Howlett in the Buffyverse. Lorne! If you don't know who that is, then I have to ask, why haven't you watched Angel yet? Buffy steps out into the hallway to see a young girl chanting over a box and is frightened by a terrifying floating corpse with a rictus grin. After she awakens in class, Willow, Riley, and she attempt to deconstruct her dream. Willow excuses herself to Wicca Group, and Riley and Buffy almost have their first kiss, except for the fact that they can't stop awkwardly talking through it. At Casa de Giles, Spike is now free to roam and is becoming adorably domestic.
We're out of Weetabix. We are out of Weetabix because you ate it all.
Xander and Anya stop by mid-argument over where their relationship is going. Giles says he has a friend coming over and asks Xander to take Spike for a night. At Wicca Group, Willow is underwhelmed by the level of magic she is surrounded by.
Also, who left their scented candles dripping all over my woman power shrine?
She attempts to entice the group with the suggestion of spells and is... So, someone requested I turn on the closed captions. The closed captions are built out of my scripts, and... sometimes there's superfluous notes and numbering and stuff like that in the scripts that I forget to remove, so quickly shot down, and we see a quiet...
I am, you know. Yours. I don't think this is gonna work.
Strong like Amazon, right?
The group Willow is under.
Boy, did I screw up timing on something important. Backing up.
Overwhelmed by the level of magic she is surrounded by.
Also, who left their scented candles dripping all over my woman power shrine?
She attempts to entice the group with the suggestion of spells and is quickly shot down. And we see a quiet, timid.
I am, you know. Yours. I don't think this is gonna work.
Strong like Amazon, right? Kissing me now. You are using too much magic.
I got so lost.
Your shirt.
Willow vents to Buffy about the group, and Buffy explains her frustration over how she and Riley are stuck.
That's
Riley is
so
also trying to work out
mean.
his side of things with Buffy. Only problem is, all he has to talk to is Forrest, and Forrest kind of sucks. I started wondering, is that the only reason Forrest is in this season? To make Riley look good? Over in Xander's parents' basement, Xander is tying Spike.
Did I not have the subtext bugle yet?
To a chair for the evening.
Like I'd bite you anyway.
And as everyone goes to sleep, somewhere in town, ghostly fingers open up.
Oh, hey, Shan, how you doing? Everyone, after show reaction, Shan. After show reacts here. That's my Shan impression. Yeah, we're doing the season wrap-up. I finished Restless. There's a spoiler-free version, but you shouldn't watch it. You're almost done. But hi! Thank you, everyone, for shouting out. You know it's love. I'm just teasing. These damn intros you do give me goosebumps, man. Subtext bell isn't going. Oh, until Goodbye, Iowa. Yeah, I think there. Yeah, careful with spoilers, because Shan does the reaction stuff. Sorry. Anyway, now I'm like nervous. Fellow YouTuber, play.
A box, and every voice in town is stolen. The next morning, Buffy wakes and begins the first of one of my favorite scenes in the episode, the long build-up to the moment she realizes something is amiss. She goes to the bathroom, brushes her teeth. In the hallway, a crying girl passes. She returns to the room. Willow stands to say hello, and they realize something is wrong. The whole scene reminds me of the famous...
There shouldn't be... You're on Season 7. There's no spoilers for Season 7 in this.
Bomb under the table Hitchcock quote about how to
build
tension in storytelling. The rote and tedious underpinnings of Buffy's morning routine might not make particularly interesting fodder in a normal episode, but one in which we, the audience, have seen what we've seen. It becomes a vital emotional build-up to Buffy and Willow's realization. The two of them walk the streets of Sunnydale's commercial district, taking in the chaos, and again, I love the visual storytelling. Painting emotion rather than speaking it. Even if it is painting with a broad brush, it's still a lot of fun. Giles and Professor Walsh say they'll need to patrol tonight to keep the peace. On patrol that night, Buffy and Riley run into each other and, unable to speak, finally... And at the watchtower from earlier, a door opens and out come the gentleman. Giles gathers the group in an auditorium and leads them through some of his trademark exposition. Lacking his voice to lend the whole thing the same sort of gravitas, he instead plays the danse macabre.
I have been practicing, yes.
In order to kill them, Buffy must get her voice back and scream, though he doesn't know how she's supposed to do that. The scene ends with a cool little shot of Buffy through one of Giles' transparencies, visually implying her indelible connection to darkness as the Slayer. Out on patrol, Riley and Buffy discover each other fighting in the Gentleman's Tower, and Riley learns there is more to Buffy than he realized. Meanwhile, Tara goes to find Willow to see if they can resolve the madness. Pursued by the Gentleman, she eventually finds her way to Willow's door. Interesting emotional byproduct for me of
the bit you gave me a ton of crap for, Boris.
The shot, the Gentlemen have muted Willow's ability to express her insecurity, and without that, I just kind of see a warrior. Maybe I'm projecting from the future. They escape to the basement laundry room. Willow can't block the door on her own without being able to speak, but together she and Tara combined manage to block the door. Buffy and Riley fight towards the box, Riley shatters it, and Buffy ends the Gentleman's Scourge with her restored voice. And the episode ends with Riley and Buffy, their voices restored, not being able to talk. Hard to sum up my feelings for Hush completely, except to say that it is such a joyful treat. This is probably the most cinematic of any of the episodes so far. As I've mentioned previously, Whedon has joked in interviews that he partly considered Buffy his medium for training himself to be a director. And approaching Hush, he felt like he was becoming more of a hack dependent on dialogue. Two-shot, two-shot, two two-shot. Hush was his attempt to force himself into new modes of thinking and storytelling. As I said, Buffy is a show about subverting expectations and cliches, and with Hush, Whedon is subverting himself. And compared to the long static scenes in the library from season 3, Hush at times almost feels like a different show. The camera is so often alive and in motion, conveying with movement what the characters cannot speak. The push in on Riley at the frat house, for instance, as all hell breaks loose. The camera movement charges the scene with a sense of...
It's my pleasure, Electric, thank you. Wait, should we all be drinking wine while you're watching this too? Sadly, there are apparently calories in wine and whiskey, and no one told me, so it doesn't really fit in with the whole keto diet thing. It's fine.
Peril and imperative that would have been impossible without. And I love the long, slow build-up to Buffy and Willow realizing they can't speak. The ambient sound, the toilet flushing, as we wait for Hitchcock's bomb under the table to go off. The fact that the glass breaking in the student common area is so jarring speaks to the effectiveness of the episode's aesthetics. So much said with silence. And without a lot of dialogue to come.
So much said with silence.
However, Christoph Beck's score blossoms, feeling contemporary and somehow like a fairy tale throwback all at once. But Whedon and Beck know when to lay it on and when to be silent. As in the scene with Tara picking up her things, there is nothing but ambient audio, and in the background we see the gentleman coming towards her. It is so frightening and well done. Lore-wise, the groundwork for this fairy tales becoming real thing was in Gingerbread. I consider this episode Gingerbread's most redeeming feature. But this is a fairy tale Buffy style. Buffy is the princess, yes, but it's the evil men that live in the tower she must break into to win the day. And rather than being rescued by her prince, she is the one swinging Robin Hood from the rafters saving him. Perhaps self-evidently, the entire episode is about communication. Walsh lays out the theme in Buffy's opening dream.
So this is what it is. Talking about communication. Talking about language, not the same thing.
Each character is suffering a sort of communication crisis. Xander can't express himself to Anya, and Anya can't speak with anything other than anvil language.
All you care about is lots of orgasms.
Every time Riley and Buffy seem on the verge of something happening, they block it with too much talking. And all Giles seems to want is for the talking to go away. I like the commentary on how an overabundance of talk can actually be a barrier to real intimate communication, a defense mechanism, and sometimes there can be more communicated in a look or the interlacing of fingers than an entire hour of talking. Two people together accomplishing more than they can alone. Whedon says in the DVD commentary, language can interfere with communication. As soon as you say something, you've eliminated every other possibility of what you're talking about. As ever, Hush is laden with sexual symbolism, much of it indicated by Buffy's original dream. As I talked about in the previous episode, Buffy is dealing with feelings about men and relationships. The man that she's trying to let go is Angel, who turned evil post-sex and broke up with her on prom night. Then you have Parker, the sexual manipulator, and then Spike for half a day, at the end of which Buffy tells Willow,
And the bad boy thing? Over it. Okay, I totally get it.
and in the opening dream, Walsh says to Riley,
Be a good boy.
Riley says to Buffy their kiss will make the sun go down, and sure enough, their moment of intimacy brings in the dream. Buffy's dreams are precognitive, but there's nothing to say that here she hasn't layered them with her own subconscious trepidation and anxiety, though maybe not entirely, as we'll get to. The gentlemen work as a patriarchal symbol, as well as an ugly sexual one. In an interview, Whedon described them as Victorian, representing a certain class. They are all prim, proper, and polite, while terrorizing the towns they come to. They live in a giant phallus. They are all white, and as the name suggests, men. And in the episode, they invade the personal spaces of their victims, penetrate their bodies, and float away with their hearts. And, notice, Buffy turned Riley into one of them in her dream. Their sexual symbolism is restated in Giles' exposition keynote, when he puts up the slide asking what do they want. And again, when Buffy suggests how to kill them. The gentlemen are a small, insulated group, and by virtue of their...
That's sometimes how I put shot descriptions in. Masturbation motion.
Their terrifying smiles and polite mannerisms, seemingly oblivious to the terror and mayhem they bring on a town. In effect,
Never
the gentlemen
trust
form a sort
a
of
Parker.
institution, something the show takes a very negative perspective on, as we saw with the Watchers Council and the school board earlier. There are two institutions of note in this episode, the gentlemen being the first and the Wicca group being the other. One, all male, is terrifying. The other, all female, is played for laughs, which Rona Wilcox suggests in her book, Why Buffy Matters, might speak to the differences in their power. Giving a bit away here, throughout the next 2 seasons, there will be 2 primary relationships existing in parallel to each other. Buffy and Riley, alongside the new friendship of Willow and Tara. Notice how the relationships play out over the course of the episode. In their fight with the Gentlemen, Willow and Tara pair together to move the soda machine with power and authority, banning the white male gentleman intruders. Buffy and Riley fight in the same space, but alone and independent from each other. Their fighting is dissonant and solitary, their communication marred with mistakes. And at the end of the episode, when Willow and Tara can't stop talking with each other, Buffy and Riley can't find the words. The episode has such a wonderful harmony of elements, visual, thematic, and musical. I do love how it suggests that language can become an impediment to love's expression. We've mentioned before that one of the weird byproducts of Whedon episodes is that they feel so entirely a cut above the rest. Sharper, better looking, more alive. Certainly that's because Whedon has a singular nature, but in the DVD commentary for Hush, he mentioned a more practical reason that I hadn't considered. Buffy was his show, and he was the showrunner, ultimately responsible for the final decisions on everything, which empowered him to take more risks than any of the other writers and directors on the show.
That shot's a mistake. He didn't actually direct that one.
Consequently, his episodes feel more experimental, more ambitious, and have rockets. I love the episode and can understand anyone who counts it as one of their favorites in the series, but when I watch Buffy, I do so from 2 simultaneous perspectives, my head and my heart. Hush is an aesthetic treasure, but it's not one of the episodes that comes back to me when I'm begging friends to watch the show. When I do that, I'm thinking about Prophecy Girl and Becoming Part 2 and The Prom. Hush is stylish, high-concept art, and I love it, but honestly, there are so many episodes that mean more to me as a fan, including in this season. And a wonderful exercise in style like Hush can still be capable of punctuating dramatic resonance, as the show itself will prove in just under 2 seasons.
We did it! Alright, friends. It's been a great season. I'm very happy that we're done with Season 4 and Season 1. I think things will only continue to get better and more fun. And I'm glad you guys dug the Restless review. That was a labor of love for sure. So I'm going to have something up next week. I mean, this is the job now. So we'll, and probably a channel news video. With previously Why You Should Watch videos, I've solicited feedback from you guys for what you think I should include. So I'll definitely do that next week. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I had a good time just sitting and hanging out with you. And thank you, Shan. We'll be in touch and have a chat. We'll set something up. So yeah, soon. I definitely want to edit that Buffy Season 5 Episode 1 video soon too. So anyway, I'm not good at endings, apparently. I will talk with you all very soon. Bye-bye.